Yeah, how's everybody doing? I didn't hear anybody. Hello. Let's get it going. How's Atlanta? My name is Mike Lazinski. Let's see, I lost my screen. There it is. I am the Director of Enterprise Sales here at Splunk. Know a lot of you here in the room. Got a great audience this morning. It's fantastic, actually. Probably broke all of our previous records as far as attendance is concerned. So thank you all for coming out this morning. I know it's a little hard to fight the traffic to come downtown, but we're glad you're here. It's going to be a great, great morning. So before we get started, we're going to try to have a little bit of fun. We've got a little exercise that we're going to go through, and I'll introduce you to that in just a minute. But before we get started, I want to ask the group a couple of questions. And before I do that, I want everybody to know that you should have a piece of paper in front of you. That piece of paper has a URL on it. Or if you've got a barcode scanning device on your phone, you can use that method. But if while I talk here for the next few minutes, if you'll just go to that URL, we're going to go through a little exercise. And when you get to this URL, you're going to see a request for your name. It's going to be really hard to see, but put your name there, and just know that there's a chance your name may get displayed on the screen. So just be polite, and or not, and then hit the next button. And so when you do that, you'll be at a screen with four color boxes. So just hold tight there for just a minute, and we'll tell you what to do from there. But before we get there. Atlanta's a town, as I always say, is kind of a transient town. We got a lot of newcomers that have been moving into Atlanta over the last 10, 15 years. And, when you have a big group like this, I always like to find out kind of, who's who in the room, and kind of, especially some of the locals. So I want to ask a couple of questions. The first question I want to ask is, who in this room has lived in Georgia for 20 years or longer? Since 1996 or longer. Wow, that's actually quite a few people. I was surprised. Okay. Who among those people that have been here 20 plus years actually have gone to high school here in, wow, that's actually looks like about half the room. All right, and then here's a question for you. Who was actually born here in Georgia? Wow. I moved here when I was 4 years old, and I've lived here ever since. That's actually incredible, but then you have to note the fact that probably about 70% of this room actually wasn't. So, typical that, we can see those kind of demographics. So, there's a reason why I asked you those questions, okay? So, for the locals, for the folks that have lived here for a really long time, we're going to ask a question to the larger audience here, and I'm hoping that you guys get the answer to this question. So, with me this morning to kick things off is my infamous partner in crime, way back there in the back, Wayne Carter. A senior sales engineer for us here at Splunk, one of our best, 30-year veteran. He's going to be working with me on walking through a little demo this morning that I want to show you. And it's a super cool feature that Splunk has. It's this event collector. For those that don't know Splunk very well, it's the ability for us to capture real-time events via HTTP. And we're going to use it to show you a demo this morning that we think you're going to really like. And this might be a little hidden gem inside of the platform that you may not even know about. So Wayne is going to drive this for us, and we're going to ask you guys some questions, and you're going to use your phone and that website I sent you to answer these questions. Okay? So, the first question we're going to ask, and you ready to flip over there, Wayne?
You ready?
I'm ready.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Okay, so for our local Georgians, do you know the answer to this question? So, Wayne, do you want to give us a little backdrop here on what we would like for them to do?
Sure. So we've got people answering already, but you're going to use your phone, and everybody should be looking at question number 1. That's the first thing that comes up after you hit next, after you put your name in. And the question is, how many streets in Atlanta contain the name Peachtree? So your choices are 21, 44, 71, or 121. So just tap your selection on your phone. And as you do that, you'll see the data streaming in live to our Splunk instance. And we're getting our results coming in. So we'll give you just a second so everybody can get going, because I know there are a lot more than 125 people in our room.
We got some people that know the answer for sure.
We sure do. We're giving hints now to the people who haven't answered yet.
Maybe it's not the answer you think it is. How about that? I'll kind of throw you for a loop. Well, why Well, the number keeps climbing. Let's go ahead.
It does.
Let's proceed to the next question.
All right, are we going to tell them the correct answer?
Yes, I'll tell them. So the answer is 71. There are 71 streets in Atlanta, I'm not talking about, that actually contain the name of each street. So is that pretty remarkable or what? Actually, and it's pretty crazy. Okay, so let's hit the next question.
Okay, so as I move to the next question, if you look on your app, there's a button to go to the next question. Make sure you're on question number 2. Question number 2 is, how many Splunk Lives have you been to? So this is your first, less than 3, less than 5, or more than 5.
You know, so we've been doing Splunk Lives in Atlanta and all over the country for probably at least 8 or 9 years now. We started out on the West Coast, and then we've been indoctrinating them all over the country. Here in Atlanta, we've had 8, almost 9. And it just seems, and every single time we do a Splunk Live, we usually ask you guys to raise your hand and tell us how many folks have actually been here before. And surprisingly, every time we have a Splunk Live, with these numbers increasing, there's always somebody here that has not been to one before. And in this particular case, actually, most of you in here have not been to a Splunk Live, which is actually quite extraordinary.
So welcome.
Really neat. So we are really glad you're here for sure. You're going to love today's session, which I'm going to tell you more about here. All right, let's go to
question 3.
Yep.
What are most of your Splunk use cases? IT, security, business analytics, or Internet of Things, or other? So we won't get as many answers here, probably, since most people are new to us.
So generally what
IT
we
and
see,
security.
yeah. This is kind of holding true to what we typically see when we take polling, and when we poll the groups. We usually see a little bit more IT ops than we see security, but generally these are usually even as far as use cases deployed. But we are seeing a lot more business analytics picking up. It's one of the strengths of our platform, as many of you know. You start in one area of your organization, and then it spreads like kudzu. For those that are local, you ought to know what that stuff is. And it expands pretty rapidly inside of your enterprise, and it becomes pretty successful. Let's go to the next one.
Move on to question 4. What's your favorite Splunk t-shirt? Choices. Take the SH out of IT. I like big data and I cannot lie. Because ninjas are too busy. Or finding your faults just like mom.
So Splunk, for the newbies, we make these red t-shirts that we're quite fond of. And a lot of times, CEO sometimes jokes about the fact that he goes, we are a t-shirt company that just happens to make software. So it's, we actually, in 1 year, we gave away over 100,000 of these t-shirts, to give you an idea. So they're pretty popular. My son actually wears one to school. And then just the other day, somebody sent an email, a picture of a Splunk t-shirt that was actually being sold at a Goodwill store. So it's the gift that keeps on giving. So that was pretty funny.
All right, question number 5. What's your Splunk skill level? I've never used Splunk, I'm a Splunk noob, I'm a power user, or move over, I'm a ninja.
Great. Again, we just did a Splunk Live in Washington, D.C., and we had over 1,000 folks in the group, and this was almost exactly how that also turned out. We had quite a few new people in the room. A lot of people were very familiar with Splunk. This is the day to show up if you want to get to know Splunk. We've got some great sessions in the afternoon. I'll talk about this briefly. You'll learn everything you need to know about Splunk. And there's obviously content for the ninjas and the power users as well. So we try to cover all of our bases here. That's really, really neat to see. All the newbies and the folks that haven't used Splunk before. So you want to keep going?
I have 2 more questions. Question number 6. How long has your organization had Splunk? We still don't have it. Less than a year, less than 5 years, or more than 5 years.
And for all those that don't have it, can you raise your hand? I'm just kidding.
That's not necessary. I'll show you why in a minute.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Wow, we have 22 respondents that have had Splunk for more than 5 years. Now, you guys are experts. There's no doubt about it. Thank you for your loyal support and of Splunk and continued participation. That's awesome. It's great to see.
All right, our final question. Has Splunk saved the day for your organization? Yes, no, it saved my life too, or I bet it would if I had it.
Well, here's a funny story real quick before I kind of kick things off as y'all are entering it. So, necessarily didn't really save the day, but I heard a customer actually present one of their use cases of Splunk. And, you know, one of the things that customers get in the habit of doing is not only do you use Splunk at home or at work, but you take it home. And because it's got some pretty cool applications that you can use for it at home. And so this individual actually uses Splunk. I don't know if anybody in the room uses one of those doorbells that has a camera on it, and you can actually see who's at your doorbell from anywhere in the house, and you can do it via the internet. And so this individual actually uses Splunk to Splunk that device. And what he's done is he's programmed it so that if somebody tries to use that device to get into their house, his sprinklers turn on after 3 failed attempts, so it scares off the person at the front door. So anyway, that's a pretty funny story.
All right, so Mike, I'm going to show them just a couple other things about the app. So this is a fun exercise, but the point of this is it's our new HTTP event collector, as Mike mentioned earlier, and it's a quick way for you to have your web-based apps provide data to Splunk. So as you've been answering these questions, not only have I been showing you the results of the combined answers, but I've also been collecting who answered what to each question. I can tell you what device you were on, what your answer was, what your ID was. More importantly, I can Splunk this data a little bit further across all of our questions, see all of our answers, and I'm going to open up a special panel here. So, in answering the questions, Brent Gunn, you were the fastest person to answer any of our 7 questions, so congratulations. You can see counted the votes by device. And Nate, wherever you are, congratulations. You are our biggest waffler. You can make up your mind on your answers, so good job. All right, back to you.
All right, thanks. Well, great job, Wayne. Thank you for that. Let's give him a round of applause. Let's get on with the show. We've got a great morning, jam-packed. Priya, if you want to come on up here. So for the folks that have not been to a Splunk Live, let me just share with you 3 things that we really tried hard to accomplish, in this session today. The first thing is we hope that you come away this morning. Sorry about that. Learning something new. Hopefully you will come away with an idea. That is the one thing we want to make sure that you come away with today is an idea or two on how I can use Splunk back in my organization. Even if it might be as funny as the story I told you about Splunking your doorbell. There are lots of great stories. We hope you hear them today. It's why we have customers presenting this morning to talk about their uses of Splunk. So that's objective number 1. Objective number 2, there's a lot of great folks in the room. We've got the ninjas and power users, and we've got the new folks. The whole idea is to bring you together to do some networking. Some of you might be actively evaluating Splunk. You're not sure if you want to use it or not. You've got quite a few folks in the room that can share their experiences. And that's what we want to do today is allow you guys to share those experiences. And then the third thing is don't go away after this morning's sessions and after lunch. Probably the most impactful part of the day is going to be in the afternoon where we actually conduct training sessions, both from beginners, newbies, all the way to advanced and ninjas. So stick around this afternoon if you can. There is definitely some breakout sessions that were actually provided to you in a piece of paper that when you register has some more detail around what those classes are or what those sessions are. So please, please, please stick around. And then right after the last breakout session, we are going to have a reception this afternoon, a happy hour. We have some great sponsors here today that are going to help sponsor that event. So you definitely want to acknowledge them and their support. Amazon is one of our biggest sponsors that's here today that's actually helping to drive that sponsorship, so thank you. And then obviously we have some other partners in the room as well. The other thing I want to point out is that there are a lot of sponsors here today. You probably already ran into your account manager, but there are others. Here's a list of all the sponsors that are attending today. If the sponsors are here, for those that are here, can you raise your hand just so we can kind of get a picture of who you are? Great. Most of them are probably sitting in the back of the room because they want to make sure they're free up seats for you guys. But definitely find your sponsor. If you've got any questions, we're here to help. We're here to kind of help you navigate today's session. So don't hesitate to ask. Okay, so one other thing. There was a hashtag at the beginning of the presentation, Splunk Live. We love to tweet what's going on at these events. And we actually incentivize you to do that, and we do it in the form of this Twitter contest. So what we like to do is this morning, when the customer presenters get started, go to hashtag Splunk Live and just tweet whatever your thoughts are about that presenter. Just remember, some of these presenters, don't do these kinds of big presentations often, so encourage them and say some great things about them. But whatever comes to mind, definitely post it out on Twitter if you feel like it. And the best Twitter, the best feeds that we get are going to win a prize. And so so we're going to give a free conference pass for those. Are we just going to give one, Stephanie? I don't know where Stephanie is.
Yep.
Just one. Okay. So the top winner is going to win a free conference pass, and for those that we did a little bit of an intro on the conference earlier, best event all year that you could possibly go to, best investment you'll ever make. It's a fantastic opportunity for you to take what you learned today and basically multiply that times 10, because there's so much more content at that event. So that's the Twitter contest. Tweet away. There's a lot of fun things that a lot of people say. So move on to the next presentation. Okay, so let me introduce this morning's big-time presenter, Priya. Priya and I go actually way back to our HP software nation. She's got a cool following. Priya's been at Splunk for over 5 years, and she's director of solution marketing, and she's going to come this morning and she's going to talk about Splunk and give you an introduction to Splunk. It's going to be particularly useful for those that aren't very familiar. And then Wayne Carter in the back, who I introduced earlier, is going to continue to lead us through some of the technical aspects of Splunk, as we're going to sprinkle in some demonstrations throughout this morning's discussion. And then when Priya's done, we're going to introduce two speakers from Cox and from Aaron's, and we're going to talk to you about the uses of Splunk. So Priya, I'm going to turn it over to you. You're awesome, and we'll be back shortly.
Thanks, Mike. And Wayne doesn't like the spotlight, which is why he's way in the back over there. And I do, so that's why I'm here. Anyways, good morning and welcome to Splunk by Atlanta. And thank you very much for spending the day with us to learn more about Splunk. And in the next hour or so, Wayne and I will be walking you through what Splunk really is. Right? So we're actually living in very interesting times right now. Right? We're living in a world that's mobile and connected, where we're expanding beyond the traditional boundaries into the cloud. There's this whole new era of software-defined infrastructures and data centers, which is bringing flexibility and agility, but at the same time, it introduces complexities and challenges in trying to identify and solve bottlenecks. Right? We have applications that are getting delivered continuously, and in some organizations, they're getting delivered multiple times a day. We're noticing new analytics-based approaches to solving security problems, because the traditional monitoring of security events no longer cuts it. Right? And if you look at the explosion of Internet of Things, what you will notice is that this is going to disrupt many industries. Right? And as a result of all of this digital innovation, what you will see is that machine data is kind of becoming very important. Right? It's becoming the center of analyzing all the data. It's the fastest growing trend in big data, but it is also one of the more complex trends of big data. But if you harness this data properly, you can actually drive innovation. You can deliver, monitor, you can secure mission-critical services that are critical to your business. And organizations and industries and government agencies can actually use this data to understand their customers. And Splunk is truly in the middle of all of this. Right? Let's take a look at some of our customers. Shazam, for some of you that may be familiar with it, they provide mobile apps for you to discover music, right? And pay for music and listen to music live. And they're using Splunk to improve the customer experience of their mobile users while listening to music. If you look at Macy's, as an example, they're using Splunk to improve the performance and availability of their infrastructure and applications, so that they are resourced well to meet the demands of seasonal trends. If you look at Hensy, they're using Splunk to understand and comply with regulatory requirements in healthcare. Right? If you look at Unicenter as an example, what they do is they use Splunk to to get an understanding of how their customers are using their online banking system so that they can improve the performance and usability and interactivity of their online banking systems. Samsung, as an example, they use Splunk to get visibility across their entire manufacturing process. So there are various ways in which you will see and hear about how the customers are using Splunk. And like we saw in the video that we played earlier, our customers are teaching us on how to use Splunk. They've just been adding more and more and more use cases because machine data has a wealth of information under it. And if you harness it properly, you can really drive visibility. So, what is Splunk then? Our mission at Splunk is to make machine data accessible, usable, and valuable to everyone. That's been our mission all along, and we innovate on our products and our features and our capabilities and use cases based on this mission, right? So if you look at why is Splunk different, machine data has always been there, but the challenge has been in the way it's collected and stored. Traditional ways require you to collect and store that data in some kind of predefined structure in the backend. This means that when you want to ask a question off of that data, you're dependent on the data that you have actually stored in your database, right? And sometimes you have abstracted away information to fit that schema. That means you have a challenge asking any question of it at any time. And that's where Splunk brings a very different approach to solve the problem. Right? Splunk does not have a schema in the backend. We collect and store data in its raw original format. This means that if you want to ask a question of real-time data or historical data, you can do so at any time. There are no limits to the kind of questions you can ask and the questions you can get answered. And speaking of no limits, there are no limits to the type of data you can collect. There are no limits to where you can collect the data from, and there are no limits to scalability. And when I talk about scalability, we have some customers that are indexing and storing hundreds of terabytes of data in Splunk and exploring that data within Splunk to gain that visibility across thousands of data sources. So it's a pretty powerful platform from that perspective. So why Splunk? What makes us unique, right? So the first thing is fast time to value. You can just go on to our website, download Splunk and install it immediately. And if that's not good enough, what you can actually do is get access to a cloud-only environment within seconds. I already talked about how we have no limits in the type of data that we're collecting, but this means that we're a universal data platform. We're agnostic to the applications, the infrastructure, the vendor that's sending the data into Splunk, right? And this means that you have the ability to ask any question of the data, because the only time we apply any kind of structure on that data is during read time. When I say during read time, Splunk provides you a simple interface to query that data. And that when you're querying that data, when you're asking that question, that's the only time we apply the structure. And this is super important because, you will ask a question of the data, but oftentimes than not, your second question will be based on the answer you get from the first question, which means that you don't always know what question you want to ask. And the fact that we store all of the data in its raw format provides you that flexibility to ask that question anytime, be it now, 1 month later, or 6 months down the line. Thirdly, because we're a universal data platform, that means we can collect all of this data, now we have the ability to provide you visibility across the service stack. That means you can connect the dots, you can get that end-to-end visibility and drive that holistic insights based on all of that data you have within Splunk. We are a single platform that caters to a variety of use cases, and you will hear about it today as well. It's amazing because when we first started off as a company, our focus was on, let's get the logs in. This was 10 years back, and we were like, okay, let's get all the logs in and provide a simple way for our customers to search through the logs to troubleshoot IT problems. That's how we started off. But we have evolved over time because we are no longer, we no longer have to just conform to just collecting log data. We can collect any type of data in any structure, be it structured or unstructured, right? And that means you have the ability to really look across your entire IT and business service stacks. And lastly, we provide the ability for you to have multiple deployment options. So if you want to deploy Splunk on premises, we have Splunk Enterprise that allows you to do that. But we also have a cloud offering that's a software as a service solution of our Splunk Enterprise running on Amazon Cloud. And we also have hybrid deployment models, which means that we're flexible in the way you can actually deploy the solution. So once you have all of that data in Splunk, right, we have a variety of customers that are indexing various types of data. And when I talk about a variety of customers, we have customers that are indexing gigabytes of data, but at the same time we have on the other spectrum customers that are indexing and storing terabytes and petabytes of data within Splunk, right? That means we can scale from desktop to enterprise very, very quickly and easily. But once you have that data in Splunk, we actually provide a very simple interface for you to interact with that data. So you can search, you can troubleshoot, you can analyze with that data, we have very powerful query language that supports over 200 commands where you can apply mathematical statistics on top of that data, and you can really get very powerful insights across a variety of use cases. And as you see, a lot of you today answered the questions that most of you are looking to solve, like app delivery and IDOPS problems, and then security. Those were our two biggest answers or use cases. And we do see that as well in our customer base, right, where those are the two biggest use cases. But we're also seeing this new trend or evolution of our customers where they're using it for these emerging use cases around business analytics and industrial data and Internet of Things. So we are a fully integrated enterprise platform. What do I mean by that? One, we talked about scalability, scaling from desktop to enterprise. That's not a problem. We're also enterprise ready. So what I mean by that is that we have features that are built into the product that cater to disaster recovery and high availability. We also provide role-based access control. So if you want to maintain data integrity, you want to secure that data to a specific set of people. You don't want everyone to have access to that data. That's fine, you can do that within Splunk. We also have a very powerful ecosystem. So what makes a product or a solution, a platform, is the ability for you to extend the value of data, right? So there are two things in the Splunk world that makes us a platform. One is that we have apps, we have thousands of apps that's been written by our ecosystem. That includes customers, partners, it includes Splunkers as well. And we also have powerful REST SDKs and APIs that allow you to take the data and extend the value of Splunk through custom development if that's what you so decide. Okay. And we talked about this a little bit. We provide multiple deployment options on-premise in the cloud or hybrid. And what I mean by hybrid is we're truly hybrid in that you can have some data that's running in the Splunk cloud, and you can have some data that's running on an on-premise install of Splunk, and you can have a single unified visibility across all of this data irrespective of where the data resides. So you can actually have an integrated view into all of that data so that you can use all of this data to drive operational intelligence. With that, I think, yes, I'm going to hand the control over to Walt way back over there to give a demonstration of the platform.
Thanks, Priya. So again, sorry I can't be up front, but I'm sure you guys would rather watch the screen in the demo than watch me. So it's okay that I'm back here. It's okay pay no attention to me, just enjoy the video, or the demo. So, before we get started, what I want to point out, since we've got a lot of people who are new, is that riding on top of Splunk. Splunk is the platform for machine learning. We collect all this machine data, and we make it accessible, usable, and valuable to everyone. We do that by allowing you to create applications on top of that provide predefined searches and dashboards and to make that data usable for your users. What I'm going to demo for you today is just an application that we have built to highlight some of the features that are available in Splunk for you. But as we talk about this from a machine data standpoint, machine data is coming at us faster and faster every single day from multiple devices. But what does this data actually look like? Well, this can be very raw and very gritty. It might be structured like this Windows event, or it may be unstructured, like all of these other log entries that we see. But the point is, these are all pieces of data coming to us from multiple sources, and they all have one thing in common. They can be used for more than what their original intended purpose is. So let's take a look at what I mean by that. So if we take an application log as an example, application logs are certainly useful for our application developers, but they're also useful for our IT operations. But doesn't stop there. Those application logs are good for security and good for business analytics. So your data can be used for multiple purposes, and if you're not using it for more than what it was originally created for, you're not getting the full value out of that. And for you to be able to do that, you need to be able to do three things all in one place. You need to be able to search your data, regardless of its format or the volume of data that you have, or where that data is located, whether it's on-premise, in the cloud, or even in Hadoop. You also need to be able to analyze and alert on that data. And finally, you need to be able to report and visualize the data. So let's pretend I've just gotten an email or a phone call from my boss, Bill. And Bill says, hey, we're having a problem with our online store. We're getting some failures there. And what I'd like for you to do is investigate that a little bit and create a report for me, add a widget to my dashboard where I can see what's actually going on with transactions and interactions with our online store. So I can certainly go up and just run a query with Splunk. So I can search for anything where we have ERR or fail and run that across all of my data. And when I do, I'll see my results that are showing me everything that's failed, failure, fail, error. And then from here, I can even zoom in on a particular time window where I see a spike in that activity so that I can then start investigating that further. I can also filter this data based off of the hosts that are having those errors or even the types of data that are having the errors. I could just as easily start by going up and searching for all of my data and filtering from there. So Bill's told me that we're having a problem with our website or web application. So instead of filtering by all the hosts that are part of my web application, I'm going to filter by the source type from all of my web logs. So let's open up source type, and we'll pick our access combined logs or our web logs. And so now I see all of all of the logs coming from my web systems. And this is great, but these logs contain a lot of data. And one of the things that they contain is a status field that tells me what the status of that particular transaction was. So it'd be nice if I could pull this field out and report on that. So let's teach Splunk how to pull this data out of these logs. So I'm going to open up one of these as an example. I'll say that I want to extract fields from it. And now using that example, I'm going to highlight the value. Here we go. And we'll call this a status code. And we'll add that extraction. And then Splunk is going to show me examples of what it's going to pull out. Looks like these are okay. So let's go ahead and save that. And once we've saved it, now we can explore our data again. We'll rerun that search. And over on the left, we'll see I have immediate access to that field, a status code, with summation data about the status. So there's no need to re-index anything, no need to re-import any kind of data. We apply that field extraction, this is what we call Splunk schema on the fly, to all of our existing data.
So as I look at this, I've got a lot of 200s here, but I've also got a lot of 503s and 404s, and that's great, but Bill probably is not going to know what those numbers mean. So I'm going to enrich this data by using a lookup. So if we go and we look at our lookups, lookups just allow us to combine data from, say, a CSV file, and in this case, we'll look that up, the status description, and we'll enhance the data or enrich the data, and we'll create a report here for Bill that uses the textual values. So now we can see a nice pie chart of all of our interactions, all of our transactions with our web service and what's going on with them. Now it looks like I've got a lot of service unavailables. One of the benefits to enriching the data like that is in my logs it doesn't say service unavailable, but now I could actually search in Splunk for everywhere the status description is equal to service unavailable as a natural language type search. But since I see I've got a lot of these, I probably want to be alerted on this prior to Bill actually calling me. So I'd probably want to create a real-time alert. For me to do that, all I need to do is come over here to the right, say Save As Alert. And I'll give this a name, something like Service Unavail. And I want to make this real time, so I could schedule it, I'll make it real time, and then I need to tell the system what I want it to do when we have matches for this. So I could send an email, I could run a script, I can actually send a text to someone or post in a chat room, or using custom alert actions, I can do anything that I can imagine, basically. So maybe I want to create a custom alert action that allows me to change the color of the lights in my NOC from white to red. So it's anything I want to do. But Bill wanted a report, so we'll cancel this, and we'll go back and we'll save this as a report on Bill's dashboard. So I'll add this to Bill's executive dashboard. We'll call it status codes. And now we'll go take a look at Bill's dashboard. So this is an overview dashboard for Bill where he's able to see everything that's going on in our environment in one place. So it combines data coming from all of these different locations into a single location. Now one of the things I see is I'm spotting this over here that says I've got some problems with my services. Looks like I'm missing some SLAs, so I'm sure Bill's going to be calling me about that a little bit later, but we'll come back to that. I also noticed down here that I've got some security related events that are pretty critical, so I probably want to look into those. But for now, I've got Bill's status codes report down here at the bottom, and so Bill should be happy. So when we come back for our next demo, we'll dive a little deeper into these services, and we'll take a look and see why our services are being impacted.
Thank you very much, Walter. So I hope that's a great demonstration of how flexible and simple Splunk really is to use, right? It's very adaptable, and you can explore the data very easily, and as you become one of the Splunk ninjas, you will realize that, the insights you can get are truly limitless, right? And it's a good reason why Splunk is the leading platform for machine data, right? So what is Splunk? And what we notice is when we provide our customers the ability to dig through that data, they're using all of that data that they have within Splunk across predominantly these use cases, right? Like I said, IT ops and app delivery are one of our core use cases. That's how we started Splunk. So let's dive a little bit into that, right? So how do our customers right now use Splunk to solve IT operations and application delivery problems? So they use Splunk to troubleshoot an issue, do root cause investigation, just search and investigate and alert, right? From there on, they then get to the next level of maturity and say, okay, now I want to be able to proactively monitor either my systems and service or holistically from an end-to-end perspective, and that's fairly easy to do as well, right? And from there on, the next level of maturity where we find our customers using Splunk is applying analytics on top of that data, right? So they use Splunk to understand any anomalies, to do some kind of prediction, forecasting. And from there on, customers truly drive business insights. And when I say business insights, this has been an age-old problem where, there's been a need for IT to kind of, align with the business, look at it from a business perspective, all of that, marketing stuff. And what you will see is that some of our customers are able to do that very easily within Splunk. And once they do that, the value that they get is that they're able to reduce their time to resolution. They're able to increase their service uptime. They are able to deliver towards strategic initiatives like DevOps and continuous delivery, because now if you look at IT, they have access to the data across the entire service stack, and on the other end, the developers have access to production data even though they do not have access to the production systems. It's never been possible before. Another big key announcement we made last year in our users conference was Splunk IT Service Intelligence. So this is a brand new solution we announced last September. And Splunk ITSI is basically a package solution that provides you real-time visibility into the health of your services and the key performance indicators of your IT services, right? So once you have Splunk ITSI, what you can do is you can use this package solution to pinpoint problems that impact your service. You can troubleshoot very effectively with these out-of-the-box visualizations. You can identify how your service is impacting the users, and as a result, possibly your business. You have the ability to get insights into the overall service health, and at the same time deep dive to troubleshoot what the root of a particular problem is. You also, the product also includes analytics capabilities driven on top of machine data to detect anomalies, to identify baselines for dynamic thresholds. So it's a very powerful solution. I believe that there are a couple of sessions in the afternoon, so that's something to look into. And now let's go into the second use case, security and compliance. So I want to bring your attention to three things when it comes to security and compliance. When we speak with our customers, they ask for three things from Splunk when it comes to security. One, they say, I want Splunk to help me rapidly investigate incidents and resolve the issues, resolve the incidents. The second is, I want to be able to take care of some of the emerging challenges around like user behavior analytics, right? And the third is to be able to address issues, address issues that will help you to proactively detect breaches and threats. And so Splunk has basically now become the brainchild of our security intelligence solution. So if you look at the options we have, this slide. So about a few years back in 2011, when we spoke with Gartner about our security solutions, they kind of said, oh, that's really cool, you're a niche player, so we'll put you in the bottom left of the Gartner Magic Quadrant. So we were like one of those niche players. But in less than 2 years, we had an incredible ascent to the right side of the quadrant as a leader. And this is because we have had over 40% year-over-year growth from customers adopting Splunk for security. We have thousands of customers solving Splunk with the machine data solving security issues with the machine data that they have within Splunk. So that's the reason why we are now the market leaders and provide a very unique analytics-driven approach to solve security-related issues. And the two premium solutions that we have for security, to solve security issues, much like ITSI, is Splunk Enterprise Security and Splunk User Behavior Analytics. So think about it this way, where you're sitting in your security operations center and you're looking at the investigator timelines and the investigator journal, and from there on you're able to seamlessly integrate into analyzing user behavior analytics And from there on, now that you have that unified visibility, you can now say, you know what, I can proactively address these breaches or these threats that I'm seeing within my environment. And that is what Splunk Solutions for Security delivers, right? I can go on about this, but let's actually hear from one of our customers on how they're using Splunk to solve security problems. I think gotta go back. Excuse me.
We're a community bank. We don't want to be in the business of running a data center. That's what you're good at. We'd rather do the part that we're good at, which is consuming the data and making business decisions out of it.
The worst thing for a bank from an ATM perspective is for our own customers to see the sorry ATM currently unavailable message. We're using Splunk to make sure that doesn't happen for our customers.
When we first started thinking about this, we actually went to our fraud department and asked them, what type of fraud do you generally see that involves the ATM? And they described a couple of use cases for us. One would be if someone has stolen a card and the PIN number and they're going to use it to hit ATMs to take money out fraudulently, they'll generally hit multiple ATMs in successive geographic order in a short period of time for small transaction dollar amounts. If I take out money at an ATM in Philadelphia and 5 minutes later the same account number takes out money from an ATM 150 or 200 miles away, it's physically impossible to be that far away that quickly. We were able to use Splunk to easily identify those type of velocity checks where we can correlate against a database of locations of ATMs, the time when transactions happened, and against a single account. It makes it real easy to pick out those types of patterns. We've gotten used to and become to rely on the capabilities of Splunk Cloud and the visibility into the data and the ease of the query language to be able to search that data.
Excellent. So now let's look at our two emerging use cases for business analytics and Internet of Things and industrial data. So because Splunk is kind of the universal machine data platform, we find customers using that data to get insights into business process analytics, into how their customers are using their product and providing that information to product management so that they can improve the usability and performance of the product, and they can work with engineering to say, these areas of the product are more useful as opposed to other areas. So analytics on customer experience and customer usage. Right? We find customers, we have some examples like Domino's, where they're trying to understand, okay, how are some of my marketing campaigns by region actually helping with driving business, right? In Domino's case, what they do as an example is they take the data from their marketing campaigns, they figure out, okay, what is the investment that they have put into those campaigns? What are the coupons that customers are using regionally? And once they do that, they're able to figure out how effective some of those campaigns are by region. What this means is that they are able to drive business decisions based off of the data that they have within Splunk. So they're able to do business analytics with machine data in Splunk. And if you look at Splunk for IoT, what we are noticing with a lot of our customers is that because they're able to Splunk any kind of data, they're getting in data from their sensors, they're getting in data from the industrial data, they're getting in not only the IT system data, but data from your power and supply and cooling and all of that data in Splunk, right? And once you have all of that data in Splunk, then one, they're able to deliver operational excellence for these various industries. They're able to understand, things like industrial cloud security that needs insights, right? Are there any breaches that are happening over there, right? They're able to do preventative maintenance. So we have some customers that are splunking in the braking systems of their trains to see if the drivers of the trains are applying too much brake and therefore expending more fuel, right? Things like that. And they're also using Splunk to even understand the asset lifecycle management, right? And what are the assets that they have? How do they manage it? Are they being effective and efficient? So this is definitely one of our emerging use cases within Splunk, and I think we have a customer testimonial to drive that home. Once we get the audio.
We're the leading provider of SaaS-based energy intelligence software. We help our customers manage their energy and get the most out of it. We're the first people to have this type of hardware out in the field, measuring energy usage in real time. We are a Splunk Enterprise customer. The main benefit that we get from Splunk is that it's allowing non-technical users to get insight into data that previously was very opaque. It's a very complicated operation that we're running with hundreds of servers and dozens of services, and we really need simple, easy to understand graphics, visualizations of the data. We have a couple of key dashboards in Splunk that give visibility into programs where we're going to make tens of millions of dollars a year in, and our senior team will look at those dashboards and they're looking at the performance of the system and the latency of the data, and they're able to understand it, they're able to interact with it. In the DevOps world, it's all about CANs, collaboration, automation, measurement, and sharing, and Splunk is helping with all four of those things. Splunk is as mission critical as our production platform is now. If the worst happens on that production system, Splunk has to be there. It has to be our fail-safe, our backup to be able to tell what happened and be able to dig in and troubleshoot and understand it.
That's a pretty awesome testimonial from Anonak. So with that, in conclusion, right, and then I have some marketing slides. So, what does the Splunk portfolio comprise of? It's powerful. It's a universal data platform because it can collect all of this data from your wire, from the cloud, from your systems, your applications, your routers, switches, data centers, wherever, right? Once you have that data in Splunk, that platform allows you to interact with that data with multiple products, right? One, we have Splunk Enterprise, which is basically our full-fledged enterprise solution that is, that is installed on premise. Then we have our Splunk Cloud solution, which is basically all enterprise functionality, but we take the headache from you in managing the Splunk infrastructure if that's what you so desire, right? So you get full enterprise functionality of our Splunk platform, but hosted and managed by us in the cloud. Then there is Splunk Lite. That's a lightweight solution used for smaller organizations trying to solve traditional IT use cases and around troubleshooting issues, right? And then we have Hunk, which is analytics on top of Hadoop, right? Splunk analytics on top of Hadoop. That means that if you have data that you have already collected in Hadoop systems, then you can deploy Hunk, which is basically providing you the ability to use all of the functionality of Splunk Enterprise on top of that Hadoop data. Then we have this powerful, the next layer, the second layer from the top is a powerful ecosystem of apps, right? What we are noticing is that we're actually developing a community of customers that are developing apps and monetizing those apps on top of Splunk. So a lot of these apps are free, but we're also seeing a lot of vendors that are actually building an ecosystem of applications that becomes their business. So what an app is it allows you the ability to get that data very quickly within Splunk and have these visualizations out of the box to start exploring that data, but provides you the flexibility to modify those visualizations in a way that makes most sense to your organization. So it accelerates time to value by allowing you to bring that data very quickly within Splunk. And then not only are we continuously investing in our platform, our goal eventually is to make your life easy. So we are heavily investing in solutions that provide this real-time visibility into these various use cases. So there's Splunk IT Service Intelligence, which is a premium solution that sits on top of the Splunk platform that provides visibility into various IT use cases. And then you have Splunk Enterprise Security, which provides you these various interactions that you can do to accelerate incident investigations, identify security breaches, and so on. And lastly, we have Splunk User Behavior Analytics, which allows you to understand these emerging challenges in security around user behavior and integrate that with the Splunk Enterprise Security solution. With that, I'm going to hand the control back over to Walt at the very end. Yep, go for it.
All right, so as I expected, Bill called me back and wanted to know about those impacts that he was seeing on his dashboard earlier related to our services. And he also wants to know what the revenue impact of that might be to our company. So using Splunk's IT Service Intelligence, I can start off with our service analyzer, and I can get a quick view of all of the important services that we've defined in our organization and what their current health score is. These health scores are calculated automatically by ITSI based off of the health of key performance indicators that you've told the system roll up to support that service. And we can see those key performance indicators down at the bottom. But Bill uses a simple glass table in order to get a view of what's going on with his with our online store. So let's open up his glass table. And here, Bill has a chance to see all of this. This looks like a good place for me to put that revenue impact he wanted to see. So I'm going to grab a KPI for revenue, and I'll position it, format it the way I want it. Glass tables make it really easy for me to quickly put these types of KPIs in a logical, easy to understand diagram. And these diagrams can actually be you can build them inside of ITSI, or you can leverage existing Visio diagrams, or any pictures or flow charts that you may already have as the background, and allows you to quickly put those KPIs in context so that you can view those and see that in a logical way. Now, I need to look a little bit deeper into what's going on. So I'm going to go to my dashboard by clicking through on this health score, and I'm going to look at my glass table that gives me a logical view of my infrastructure from left to right and of my application. So I can see here that while I'm having a little bit of trouble with my website, I'm really having a lot more trouble with my mobile application. But as I look to the left, I can see the infrastructure that those depend on, and it looks to me over here to the right like maybe my database layer is having a little bit of trouble. So I'm going to click through there into a deep dive on the database layer. And this takes me to a deep dive for the database. And so in our deep dive for the database, you can see here, this allows me to view KPIs in a swim lane fashion so that I can visually see how the correlations are happening between different KPIs. So it looks like our disk space filled up, and that's when things started going wrong. But if I look a little bit higher, I can see that at the same time, my database query count really got a little bit higher. And I can click on that, and I can see those raw events for those database queries, including what was happening. But I'm more interested in who is issuing these queries. So I'm going to click here and say, let's give me a count by user. So this will bring up all of my top systems, and oh, that's interesting. My top queries, my top 2 queries are actually being executed by Bill Williams, my boss. So what's he doing? Well, it looks like he's selecting all of the data from our HR table. Well, that's not good. And it looks like he's also trying to get some password information. So this doesn't sound like something Bill would normally do. So it seems to me like instead of having just a performance problem here, I might have a security event going on. So I'm going to click through now and look at enterprise security, specifically at the incident review dashboard and enterprise security, and see if there's anything going on related to Bill. And sure enough, I see a spike in recent activity related to Bill. And at the bottom, I can see details about those, open those up, like for this brute force attack, and I can see details around those. Now, at this point, I'm starting to feel like maybe Bill's system's been compromised or his account's been compromised. So I'm going to look a little bit deeper into a system. So I'll open this and I'll go into our Asset Investigator. So the Asset Investigator lets me see all of the security related events for Bill's system and for Bill's account in a swim lane fashion, looking at the different security vectors and seeing the volume of activity that's occurring. So at the top I see all of the details about Bill's system, but down at the bottom in these swim lanes I actually see the volume of incidents that are occurring, or the volume of events that are occurring in each one of these different security domains. So the first line there is all about the authentication. So those are authentications to or from Bill's system, whether they're successes or failures, and that looks like an awful lot of authentication events to me. So I'm going to come back to that in a second, but first, let's highlight a section of this, and when we do that, you'll see the system will give us some textual context around all the security events for the time range that we've highlighted. And this allows us to start looking at exactly what has happened and to understand it a little bit better. Now this looked like it started with a malware event, so I'm going to go click on that malware event, and then I'm going to dive deeper into the malware event itself. So now I can see the event, and it's probably time for me to open an official investigation so that I can start really digging into what happened in Bill's case and then share that with other people on my team. So let's open this up. And say we want to create an investigation. We can give it a name, and oh wait, look, there is an actual investigation that someone's already created. So let's just go and take a look at what my coworkers have already found out about Bill's system. So we'll go to our investigations, open up this one for Bill. And so here we see the original notable event that got created. We see Bill's account got compromised. There were some queries that got ran. And then, yes, Bill accessed that critical database. So we saw where Bill was accessing HR when we were looking at our searches. So that's probably not normal behavior for Bill. So this should have been something that was picked up by Splunk's user behavior analytics. So let's go back to our Asset Investigator and see if UBA picked it up. And sure enough, right there, we've got an event from UBA that gives us details where UBA saw some interesting activity related to Bill's account. So let's go take a look and see what UBA actually tells us about that. So with user behavior analytics, this allows us to look at our data from a machine learning standpoint without the need for a lot of complex correlation rules or human intervention to determine what's normal in our environment, and then to highlight and flag for us when we deviate from that normality. And it allows us to quickly see a correlation between systems and accounts that are involved in that, but more importantly, it lets us view this from the kill chain perspective. So I can see everything that occurred from our intrusion phase, our expansion phase, and more importantly, our exfiltration phase. And in this case, it does look like I've had data exfiltrated, over 30 gigabytes of data, and we know that Bill was accessing our HR table, or his account was anyway, so that's probably not a good thing for us. So let's see what kind of activity we saw related to Bill's machine. So as I look down here, there was some interesting activity that occurred, but look down here a little bit lower. Right here, we've got actually some interesting activity going on from our mobile application. And it's version 4.6, and I didn't think version 4.6 was even out yet. So I'm going to go look at this a little bit closer. So I'm going to go back over to Bill's executive dashboard in the app that we saw in our first demo. And here we're going to click through into our ops performance and open up our application delivery dashboard. And here I can see all of my failures in both my development and my production areas. So these aren't failures in the builds themselves. These are actually failures from things like automated acceptance testing, or maybe some chaos monkey types of tests. And so it looks like I've got a lot going on in my production environment. So I'm actually going to drill into that a little bit deeper. And we're going to focus just on the failures. And I really want to focus on those failures. I see I've got them across all things, but let's focus just on production and just on those with the most failures. So let's highlight that area as well. And sure enough, there we go. It's version 4.6 and on our iPhone 6 platform. But I want to see what this is really doing for me. So using Splunk Mint, I can collect a lot of information about the performance of my mobile apps and show that here as well. But I'm really curious as to which users are using version 4.6 of my app. So let's change the view of this to our app version, and I collect some metrics here. I see I've got latency, and there's a lot of latency it looks like with 4.6. But if I highlight one of these bars, I can click through to that and see the users who are using that, and look at that. So we do have someone using it. Oh, it's someone from North Korea. That's not good. And they're using Bill's ID, but then they're also running those searches that we saw in our data. That's our SQL injection. So they're actually leveraging our app. So now we understand where the attack's coming from, so we know what we need to do to go and fix it. But now Bill was also asking us about the business impact. So let's go and look at our business analytics overview. And so here I can see a comparison between our revenue dollars and our cost real time. And so we see that our revenue is down significantly. We're down 49% from our previous hour. So that's not good. And our costs have risen. But what are our customers actually saying about us? How's that impacted us? So it looks like our call volume has spiked up if we look at the graph there at the bottom, but we're still well below our capacity to handle those calls. But what are our customers actually feeling about us in the world? So we can also index some of that social media data, and so we can see that our sentiment scores dropped a little bit, but we're still green, and our customers are tweeting things about us like, our mobile app is slow and, fail, but they're still saying that they love the company and their support team rocks, so that's good. But let's look a little bit lower into the revenue issue. So we'll go over here, we'll look at our revenue, and so here I can see that my revenue has been declining, and we're even predicting out into the future that our revenue's predicted to continue to decline if we don't fix this. And I can see a correlation here that this all started to happen when we started to have those failures. But I'm also curious about this cost at the top. So could that increase in cost also be related? If I click through to this, then I can see that my cloud service costs and my support seem to be pretty steady, but my utilities have increased. So let's see what that's about. And here my top utilities are water, gas, and power. And sure enough, here's a spike in power. So let's click through here to our biggest power consumer, and that's our data center. So here I can see that my power has risen, my power consumption has risen, and my temperature's also risen. But if I look a little deeper, I can see, rack 2A seems to have a hot spot. But what's in rack 2A? Well, the system has found a deviation in our power consumption for rack number 2. But what's running in rack number 2? If we click through that, now I can see the systems that are actually running in that rack, and there's our database server that we know is having a SQL injection attack right now. Now, since we're using Splunk, maybe I'm interested in seeing everything in rack 2. So taking this back to our searches from before, if I click through here, I could have executed just a search in Splunk for rack equals 2. Now, there's nothing in my data that tells me rack equals 2 from any of those devices. But by enhancing the data, the way we did with our status descriptions, we can put location type information into the system this way, and that way we can search on it. So now I'm actually seeing all the events for all of the servers, for all of the sensors like our PDU sensors, as well as all the applications that are running on the servers in rack number 2. So what we've seen is just a way for us to quickly leverage the out-of-the-box solutions like ITSI, Enterprise Security, and UBA to quickly find and locate and alert us on events that are occurring in the environment, but also to use Splunk's natural search capabilities to dig into the underlying causes of those.
Thank you very much, Walter. So that gives you a very good overview. Again, this is still just an overview of the possibilities with Splunk, right? And it's pretty darn awesome. But what makes us even more awesome is our very vibrant community. So it's amazing. Like when I first joined the company, I just went for some events, and our customers would choose to stand in the booth talking about the value that they're deriving from Splunk, right? And you're going to hear two customers today that are going to do the same thing. But that's the kind of excitement, our customers feel, right? Like some of our customers call it, say it's so addictive that it's like crack. I don't know what that is like, but it is what it is. So we have an excellent community, and where we have over 1,000 apps. I talked about how we're also seeing an ecosystem of vendors and organizations that are getting developed as a part of that ecosystem. You can go to splunkbase.com to see all of the apps that are available. But we also have excellent Splunk answers. We have over 65,000 questions and answers in Splunk answers. And these are answered by Splunkers, Splunk support team, our customers and our partners. I mean, it's extremely active. And so, it's a great place to go and look for answers, but at the same time, our support team is pretty awesome as well. And we have local user groups and Splunk Live events like the one that you're in today. I believe that we also have a local user group at Atlanta, so you can get together with other customers, figure out how they're using Splunk, what challenges they're facing, how do they overcome it. So it's very popular, and Splunk Live events is a great place to meet with your counterparts, as are some of the other community events. And we have a very detailed description on dev.splunk.com that allows you to understand how to extend the value of the data you have within Splunk, how to build custom insights, how to use that data. It doesn't have to all reside in Splunk, right? I mean, once the data is in, your boss may look at that data very differently in a portal that he's so used to, and you can build such kinds of custom integrations, and it's all documented in dev.splunk.com. It's very easy to get started. So we have the free cloud trials. So you can request a free cloud trial of our Splunk Enterprise solution or our Splunk SaaS, Splunk Cloud offering in the cloud, or you can also get a free cloud trial instance of Splunk Lite. Or if that takes the headache of you having to provision something for like a test and see if this works for me. But we have lots of customers that want to download it and install it on premise, right? And you get access to the same software that can scale from megabytes to gigabytes to like enterprise, right? So it's desktop to enterprise scalability, and the free software download that's available for an on-premise install provides you access to our full enterprise software platform. And lastly, we also have sandbox environments for two of our premium solutions, Splunk Enterprise Security and IT Service Intelligence. These sandboxes are available for a period of 7 days. They come with pre-populated data. You can request it right now just going to the respective pages, and you can immediately get access to this environment in the cloud, and you can start like playing around with it, see if that makes sense for you, right? With that, what we are noticing is that with Splunk, we are providing the ability for our customers to ask any data of it at any time in a manner that makes most sense to them. And what we are noticing with our customers is that across these various use cases, we are moving our customers from a very reactive approach to solving the problem to a very proactive approach. So it's a very popular solution, and when different people are asking different questions from the same data that you have within the platform, imagine the ROI that you can get from using a single platform and a single solution to solve all of these various problems. With that, the very last slide, I'm the one holding you from your 10-minute break, but we are headed to Orlando. You just saw the introductory slide on our introductory video on our users conference. It is a user conference that's unlike any other conference I've attended, and I've attended quite a few, right? And the reason why this is different is because One, it's not a salesy conference, right? You will hear from our customers. You'll have direct access to our engineers, our product managers, our technical experts to understand how to use it. There are various technical sessions. I mean, multiple customers are presenting. You come there, you have access to Splunk University, and you can get Splunk certified for free, right? And you can have one-on-one interactions with these experts. You can get a group of folks together on a table and discuss how they're solving it. So it's a fantastic conference. Registrations are open, and I truly hope to see you all there. With that, I want to say thank you very much for spending the last hour with me, and thanks to Walter for a fantastic demo. Have a great day, folks.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks, Wayne, in the back, for doing that great demo. Appreciate that, yeah. So yeah, we are going to a break, 10 minutes probably, and we'll meet right back here. Obviously, just head outside, and Marva Baylor is going to be taking over for me, and she's going to run you through the rest of the morning, and look forward to you coming back. So thanks.
From the break, get our caffeine. So as we're getting settled, I'd like to introduce myself. Hi, I'm Marva Baylor. I run the Southeast for Splunk, and I've been here for 2 years. I actually got interviewed 2 years ago at Splunk Live, and I'm also the guest of the day at the Hyatt. Has anyone ever been guest of the day? I travel all the time, worldwide. I have never been guest of the day. So I'm guest of the day at the Hyatt, and I was checking in yesterday. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's great. So you would think I'm like a platinum sponsor or something here, and I'm not. I actually checked in the hotel yesterday with my IBM rate, because I'm retired IBM, and so they didn't know I was from Splunk, and I was nice to the lady, and she's like, hold on. I have something for you. I'm like, what? She goes, oh, you're guest of the day. I'm like, what's guest of the day? So anyways, as guest of the day, you get a lot of fanfare when you check in. All the other people behind you in line are super jealous. They're all waving at me. There's a lot of guys waving, like, who is she? What'd she do? You get wine. You don't just get water. I mean, everyone gives you water, right? So I got wine, snacks, energy bars, corner room. Do you know, even in this hotel, I actually am local in Atlanta, there's a whole other tower. It's called the International Tower, and it's really nice. So anyways, so you're meeting the guest of the day at the Hyatt. So I do want to thank the Hyatt because they're doing a great job. So because there's so many people here, I mean, this is crazy. We just are so honored and blessed you're here. We'd love you to take a picture, and Rob's in the back, so if we could all just stand up and wave at Rob. This is Atlanta. We have 65 cities worldwide, so we have to have the best picture out of all the cities worldwide. That includes cool places like Germany and Australia and Japan. So let's all stand up for Rob. He's in the back. Stand up. Come on. Let's do it. Stand up. Wave to Rob. Woo! All right. We do have some seats up front. Can you all come on up? Come on, don't be shy, because it's going to be very interactive, and you're really going to want to take notes for these next presentations. So as Mike said, our goal is for you all to learn something. I'm not sure if since there's a lot of new people here, if you caught this part about Splunk. So the way Splunk works is most of the things that you're learning are ideas, but you also can take those ideas and share your searches, and that's what those apps are. But you also can share the searches with other clients. I remember I went to my first .conf, and the Comcast team spoke, and they were just swarmed after, and everyone was asking them for those searches. I didn't really understand what they were doing. But basically, if someone's done something that's interesting to you, you can then talk to them, and they can just basically give you their searches and what they did, and you can immediately have it back. And our professional services team is also here with Splunk Answers, and they can do the same thing for you. So I'm not sure if everyone caught that. A lot of times you go to these conferences, everything sounds really cool. You meet the guy or gal, you exchange cards, and you're like, okay, now how am I going to do this back in my company? So this way, we actually do have a mechanism for you to do that. So it's really great. So the speakers we have today, so we do not have professional speakers at Splunk, and we also do not pay our customers to speak, meaning give them big discounts or something like that. People speak because it's their passion. We also make stars. So our new CTO was the CIO of GE, and he spoke at our users conference, and he ended up joining Splunk. Mike O'Connor, I don't see Michael yet today. I saw some other Coke people. He had his first speaking engagement at Coke from Coke at our .conf 2 years ago. It had so many Twitter feeds, like so many Twitter hits of Coke and Splunk. The marketing team from Coke was like, what is going on? Who's this Splunk? You know, they thought it was some new flavor or whatever. They didn't know. I mean, and he's, you know, a user of Splunk. It just had a really cool use case. So we are here to make you stars and make you shine. I know a lot of you sometimes don't get the thanks that you deserve or the recognition. So that's our job for you. So the people we have speaking are not professional speakers. So please, you know, bear with them. So the first speaker I'd like to invite is David. And David, I was asking him, I said, hey David, you ever spoken to a crowd? He's from Aaron's. Aaron's is a very large company here in Atlanta. I will say Aaron's honestly has the funniest CIO of any CIO I would say in the whole world that I've ever met. John Trainer is hilarious. So I was asking David, I said, hey, have you ever spoken in front of a crowd this big? And what did you tell me?
The last time I spoke at a crowd this big, I had him in the leaning rest. Because ex-military, and ex-military know what I mean. So it's a change for me to be talking to team members, people who are basically in the same struggle I'm in. I call it a struggle because IT is one of those things is, you know what, why we gotta invest in it? And then when something happens, they go, oh, we need IT. Where's the IT guy? And your phone starts blowing up,
So enjoy your time. He was also sharing with me that he used to also run all the cables and do really big conferences for a lot of his clients. So he's an expert, but he said he's going to be on stage today. And then we also have Jeff Myers, who's his sidekick, who's going to come up. And Jeff Myers is with Splunk, and that's the other thing. We never leave you hanging. We always have your back at Splunk, right? And we do pay for drinks and food, right?
I am.
All right. Well, have fun, guys.
Supposed to have a milk crate.
Oh, it's my bad.
You got it.
All right.
Do you want to do the agenda or you want me to do it?
You would do it. The time is running out, so they may eject us off the stage.
Well, we got a lot of time to kill, so. You know any good jokes?
I know short jokes.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Okay.
So I guess, can you guys hear me okay in the back? Just give me a cool. All right. So what we're going to do today is we're just going to talk a little bit about Aaron's journey with Splunk. And as we do that, we're going to talk a bit about where they came from, where they are right now, and where they're going. And as has been said quite a few times, our goal is to basically share some bits of knowledge that will hopefully be personal to you, that will resonate with you, so you can kind of carry them home, carry them to your job, and kind of go forth as you try to conduct your next set of tasks at work. So to that end, I would say we're going to cover sort of at a real high level some of these topics, and we'll both be around so you can ask us questions after this session. So David will introduce himself. He'll talk a little bit about his history. I will talk then about the situation sort of as it was when I walked into Aaron's probably about 2 years ago, I guess. Yeah. Kind of what the scene was there. And I'll set the stage for then David to come back and talk about where they're at right now, plus where they're going. Okay, the use cases that'll be covered today, we'll sort of start in the land of compliance because that was the problem of the day when I walked in, and then we will talk about the move towards sort of full-on security and information assurance approach at Aaron's. So go for it.
So most of the people here from Atlanta, so basically Aaron's, everybody knows what Aaron's is. They see the dog, they see the truck. We're a lease-to-own rental, okay? The company focuses on leasing and rental sales, furniture, electronics, appliance, computers, and now we lease smartphones, Samsung tabs. You can stop by, Our salespeople would love this.
Do you guys have any lease-to-own on Splunk?
We'll talk.
All right. It's a good idea, I just had.
Yeah. So our stores are different. We have corporate stores, we have franchise stores there in the United States and Canada. The company was founded in 1955. It's a long time ago. It started with one chair, and it kept growing and growing. We became publicly traded in 1982. Okay. So Aaron's, we made a little news this year. We acquired a company called Progressive Financial, and this company enables us to provide additional credit validation and help individuals who cannot meet that credit requirement but do need furniture and things like that. And we help that segment of the market that, you know, if you've ever been a college student who struggle to get credit and I need some furniture, you know, instead of getting the lawn chairs and putting it in your house or, you know, the little picnic table, you can actually start building credit with us. So that's the value we bring to our customers. Next. So about me, the picture is blurred out to protect the guilty. So this is my first time at Splunk, from just like most people here. I've been in the information security field for over 10 years. In the military, I started off, I used to be called what's called a cable dog. At night, I would basically run cables in the woods to set up communication, set up antennas when it's raining. So I started from that. A BNC connector messed up, cable broken. So I've been in the trenches. After I got out, I've worked at companies here in Atlanta like Home Depot, Incom Water, Travelport, McKesson, just different companies. I've been using Splunk for a while. I have it in my house. I watch my own network, especially certain sites my son goes to. My son gaming habits, I keep an eye on that. So I have a dashboard that tells me what he's doing. I can see when I said, have you played the video game you're not supposed to play? He's like, no, Dad, I haven't touched it, it's off. Pull up Splunk. Okay, come here. Let's talk. So I do use it in my house. But I got the opportunity when I got to Aaron's to take it on an enterprise level. So my job there, I'm responsible for growing Splunk. And how I got that is basically, walked into Aaron's, my boss is like, yeah, we have this, my roadmap is this. I'm like, well, you need a dashboard. He said, yeah, you know, I've got my vulnerability scanner dashboard, but we want this type of data in here and here. And the other person was doing it in Excel spreadsheet. So, well, you can use Splunk and get that. He's like, okay, the project is yours. What the heck? I didn't volunteer for it. I'm like, okay, next time I know, you know, in the military they said don't volunteer for anything. So I should have learned from that. But our main thing at Aaron's is basically we help customers build credit. Okay? And why we're using Splunk is the trust factor. The individual give us the credit, they're basically their whole life story to apply for credit. We say, okay, you're good to go. So that trust is developed. They know they can come back to us, rent something. So that trust is developed, and we want to make sure we secure our data and keep that trust going. So that's why we, from the security aspect, is focused on Splunk. So our security team is interesting. Is made up of our CIO, Chris Bullock. He's got more acronyms than anything. Half of them I couldn't fit, it just kept going and it would have wrapped around. But we're segmented into 3 key pillars: risk validation, incident management, and governance. So our process is, from the risk validation step, is myself, Bhavin Patel, but we are more like the consultants. So we'll meet with the business. If they're loading any new apps, we do risk assessment, pen testing on those. External vendors, we deal with them. We'll do pen testing, do documentation, ask the standard question, when was the last time you did a pen test? You know, our data is this and that. So we're the consulting arms. Incident management, we have 2 stars, Dean Malice, Derek Weaver. They're somewhere there, but I think they're hiding right now. They're the bad guys. They get to pull all the data and basically tap the people on the shoulder, bye-bye. So they're the bad guys. We keep them hidden. Our governance process is controlled by Jim Moore, and Verna. Those guys are separated from us, but they're intertwined. So what I do with the governance pieces and the value I bring to them is, first of all, when the auditors come in, we need to know where this data is. We need this last month's of firewall logs. We need this, we need that. Jim has his own view into Splunk. Incident management has their own view into Splunk. We have our own view into Splunk. So each pillar have their own little view into Splunk and consume the data differently because of those particular pillars. When the auditors come in, they don't come to myself, they don't come to anybody else, they go straight to Jim's team, and he can effectively pull the data. That's you.
All right, so I'll go ahead and start setting the stage for how we got started. And as I was doing this, I actually had a Splunk demo prepared for y'all, but as you guys saw with Walt/Wayne in the back, we couldn't get it to work up here. So I just grabbed a quick screenshot of something that I was Splunking. So does anybody know what this picture is other than the country that we live in? What's that? Yeah, exactly. So where there are Aaron stores. So what I was trying to get was, something that represented the sort of snap moment I had when I first got started with Aaron's, and that was trying to understand the sort of magnitude of the problem that was at hand. And I could think about numbers of customers that they touch, because there's actually quite a high volume and quite a degree of volatility to the customer base because of who they serve. So there could have been numbers of customers and things along those lines. But I figured this would be a good snapshot that could help you all understand sort of what we were facing. And so what this is behind me is a map of the United States, and it shows everywhere where there is one of those 2,000 store locations. It's mapped in Splunk, as you saw Wayne do this morning. I can kind of pull up any data. And so I went ahead and just mashed up their store locations with lat long information and shot it on a map, just to give you a sense for the density of the problem. Right? And the issue that they basically faced, in its simplest form, was when the compliance team comes in, when Jim says, "Are we good?" or he states a requirement that says, "Here's how we know we're good," and then asks the question like, "Are all the stores represented?" Right? You got to be able to go touch every single one of these dots in some way, shape, or form and answer a portion of that question out of every one of these dots. And that was effectively their issue. Right? They basically weren't sure if every single dot was collected from and if every single dot was hit when they ran some sort of requirements report. So it's a pretty simple problem that they had, just sort of multiplied out by the number of instances of that problem. All right, so pop quiz. What is this picture on the right meant to indicate? What's that? It's a drop in the ocean? Okay, that could be it. So what else? Lifeline, I heard somebody say. What else? Somebody else give me one more thing. A whole bunch of salt water. All right, so what's that? Somebody that's drowned.
Yeah.
Somebody that might drown. So what this picture represents to me, I was kind of searching for, I'm a pictures guy, and I was trying to search for something that really represented what I felt was the situation at Aaron's. And I felt like, I sat down and I sort of cleared my mind, drank a whole bunch of beer, and then thought to myself, it was a lot like being trapped in the middle of the ocean. And why I say that is, I've never been trapped in the middle of the ocean. Has anybody here ever been trapped in the middle of the ocean? All right, no hands. It's good.
Yeah, we have one person.
One? Okay. So anybody that I ever hear from who's been trapped in the middle of the ocean always talks about this phenomenon of being sitting in the middle of floating on the exact thing that you need, but you can't touch it, right? So everybody who's been trapped on one of these rescue boats talks about the fact that all they're doing is dying of thirst, and the thing that's so painful is all that's around them is water, yet they can't drink any of it, right? And I thought in some strange way, could have been late night, could have been the beer, I don't know, but I thought in some strange way that was sort of reflective of the situation at Aaron's, where they were actually swimming in the data that they needed access to. As a matter of fact, it was all around them. They were almost crushed by the size of the data, trying to manage the data all the time, yet they couldn't really see any of it, right? And to me, that was really what earned us the rights to walk in the door at Aaron's. So, basically they had that issue of, by the way, quick show of hands, who in this room is involved in any sort of compliance efforts? Just give me a quick show of hands. Okay, so that's about a fifth of the room.
Yeah.
If you talk to anybody about Splunk around compliance, some things that come to mind are, hey, there's this app called the PCI compliance app. There's this other solution called this, and there's this other solution called that. And all those things were sort of in play at Aaron's, but frankly, just the ability to store, all that data in one place and call it back up in a heartbeat to understand, hey, did we see data from every store last night? In that report, is every store represented? Is every firewall there? Just being able to see that level of information was the value pile for Aaron's, quite frankly. Because before that, if you look at response time measured in hours and days, that's more of a security type of use case. Anybody using compliance knows that, when the stuff starts hitting the fan, auditors show up in your cube nonstop. They've got a different variant of the last question they asked, right? And quickly, if you can't come up with answers, in short order, they will come to your cube faster than you can provide them information, and your backlog just grows, right? And that was really a huge part of the problem at Aaron's, and that not only makes your day difficult, but it destroys your credibility with your auditors, which is a huge problem when a big portion of what you're trying to do is win them over and give them confidence that the data that you're providing to them is correct and in full fidelity and complete. So that was a huge issue. And like I said, they were, like the picture shows, they were kind of floating on that pile of data. They knew it was around them. They had solutions who, like I say at the bottom here, will remain nameless and blameless. They had plenty of solutions that were supposed to provide this access, but nothing could provide it. So basically, they just needed a way that they could, easily get all their data into one place, easily go to that one place, snap on a time period, pull up all of their events for all of their stores in short order, and be positive that it was all of those events. And that was Splunk for them. That led to, situations like, hey, I don't only want to create those reports when the auditor shows up at my cube. I don't only want them to be able to run fast, but, we would like to be able to see things that will indicate, did we have any problems with, transfers of data last night? So that leads into custom dashboards and things along those lines. And as they started to move out of that quote unquote simple compliance effort, which I don't mean to belittle that because it was not a simple compliance effort. But as they started to move out of that and move towards security, they started to realize that not only do they need the power of the Splunk platform from a performance perspective, but they needed it from a flexibility perspective, right? So being able to come in and take a look at some custom piece of information that's an answer to one of Dean's very specific questions, right? Some custom report that's different than what Splunk ships out of the box, and those kinds of things led them to the situation where they needed, as it says up here, custom dashboards and custom reports so that they could basically peer into those blind spots that they had when they were looking at a fractured solution. So like I would say, as the title says here, basically the problem at hand was, they had logs and information, piles of it all over the place, not very accessible, and that led to, problems with visibility, which then in turn led to problems with response time, credibility, compliance quality, and all sorts of things like that. Anything you want to add to that?
No, you summed it up pretty good. The next slide really,
Nope.
wrong button. The next slide really is going to set the stage. So we did PCI compliance. Check. Everybody hears that? Check. We're good for a couple of more months. What, 3 months, every quarter? We made it. Great. Wait a minute. Well, what other data do we need? Let's start growing this. Let's start looking at events. We got an incident management team. Let's start looking at events. We can start doing correlation. Okay? We need more reports. Okay, we have a CAN report that come out the box. Our vulnerability scanner is telling us nice reports. A report is run for PCI compliance. A report is run for this. Network teams, everybody getting this report. you know, they can't understand it. It's a great report. Next thing you know, management want this dashboard, dashboard, but yet still you're handling day-to-day business incidents and things like that. How do you get all this data together? So, like I said, when I came on board, I volunteered for the task, or was elected in a unique way, just by making the suggestions. How many people that has happened to? You got a great idea, you say, hey, we can do this, and then, oh, yeah, run with it. Okay, I'm supposed to be in charge. Now, how am I going to make this work? So that's where our story is going to begin, really getting into some issues. So we have Splunk, okay? 2016, we want to automate. We want to do everything automated. It has to happen, okay? We want to get so much information. We want to do breach detection. We want to be fast. We want to make sure all our customers' data is secure. So what do? We can have in-house people like me go, okay, we need to buy this server, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to build on Splunk. Well, I stepped back and took a different approach. I said, you know what? We bought Splunk for A. We're growing. Is it growing with us? So I started asking those questions. Then I reach out to my rep, Scotty, and I was like, okay, this is what we have. We're not to the point where I think we need to be. How do we grow this? So instead of me sitting down going, you know, pulling up Visio, drawing a diagram, having a meeting, I'm like, I don't need this. I said, let me get the expert in. So we engaged Scotty and this tall man over here. You know, we brought these guys in. And I said, well, this is our issue. Here's where we're at. This is where we want to be. And this is how we're growing quickly. What I need you to do is give us a health check. You know, look under the hood, give us the cough check, you know, make sure everything is in place.
That's not what the cough check is for, by the way.
Oh, okay. Shh. Just give us that check, you know, so we understand what's going on. So we did that. Now we have a roadmap to meet what we need. Next slide. So, how am I going to basically say, you know what? I need more money to get this done. So I've got to show the ROI for this tool. How am I going to show the ROI? Am I just going to come and say, well, we can do this, that, and I have to show value of the data going in and then produce reports, okay? I need to produce reports. I need my tool to not just fit security, but security is a subset of business. So I need that business to understand it. So what we did, got our account manager in, we said, this is what security is using it for. Then we brought in the different team, application, servers. We even bought our call center. So we brought all these individuals in the room and just sparked that idea. Okay, this is what you can do with this data. You know, everybody's so excited. There's a reason I did that. It's a selfish portion of my part, because my thing is, as security, I want their data. I don't want an incident to occur. My team is out there going, well, let's call this person from the server team. We need access to these logs and this and that. Can they forward the logs? Well, he's on vacation. Kid is sick. It's summer break. You can't find nobody in the office. I need their data, but by me going out and meet with them and say, hey, I need you to forward my data, you know, it's a little conflict, so I need to show them the value. So this is how I got buy-in for my team to start forwarding those data into Splunk without any, you know, big headaches. From a security standpoint, you want as much log as you want. So now we have all this data. Next slide. So that's the value. So now we have all this data in. We got our compliancy. We got remediation done. Next target, security alert threat, real-time detection. By us building this, we set the stage. So we have an external party that does pen tests. Everybody has that. What usually happens, they come in, they do the pen test, you see the report, you're going, this ain't the story. Well, this alert happened and nobody responded. They didn't see it. They didn't see the attack, and management's just like, you said you bought a firewall, an IDS. How come you didn't see it? And you're going, well, we did see it, but why didn't you alert on it? Well, it happened at this time. They said they got in. Well, in our cases, our pen testers start doing the pen tests. Boom, we saw it. We saw the alerts. So when we saw the report, it was like, oh, this and this. We had a Splunk log that says we saw this attack, this and that. Then we created a ServiceNow ticket. So we had a list of all the attacks we saw, all the incidents that's occurring. So when the pen testers were like, well, we're going through the report before and going, no, this is the ticket number that went with this. This is the ticket number that went with this. You executed netcat here, this and that. So we had all that information fed to us.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah.
You don't have to exhaust the list, but I think for anybody who's facing this kind of a problem in the audience, I think it'd be useful to know, what are some of the data sources that you were looking at during those efforts that help you kind of see this information?
That's the next slide.
There we go. All right.
So that's our data source, corporate firewall, Carbon Black, okay? AD log, storage firewall, VPN, vulnerability management, threat intel, okay? Mail servers, database audit logs, IPS, next-gen firewall, application logs. The thing is with our vulnerability management, that was a bane in our existence, but we basically took that data. We didn't use the reports from the Navy tool. We used the reporting from Splunk so people can understand, people across the organization, from the person on the call center to management. So if there's an issue, particular port we see should not be talking out of, it's a simple drill down, it's a simple click. I don't have to spend the money to get this super genius out there to come in and write code. I can just explain the process, this is what you need to do a click and bring it through.
I guess I'll just talk a little bit about architecture. So, we'll be here, like I said, all day. But I think that, and we'll talk about this at the end as we talk about lessons learned. Picture on the right in terms of architecture is a little bit of a picture of the as-is and also a little bit of the picture of the to-be.
Yeah.
Initially, we started with a fairly straightforward but distributed Splunk. So it was basically a couple indexers and a search head and a forwarder just to get syslog data in. What we'll talk about later on is kind of how we size that out and implications of that as we face today. And then, so where they're at right now is they basically have two search heads, two indexers, and a couple of forwarders that are mixtures of heavy forwarders and universal forwarders. To the vulnerability data that David talked about, he called me up and asked me the question of, hey, there's this app out there that is built by the vendor for that data source. Jeff, how the heck do I get this data into Splunk, right? And so we spent probably about, half a day. We just kind of went through and sparked up a heavy forwarder that went and pulled that data. So, the data collection layer is obviously dependent upon the types of data that they're wanting to pick up. Right. But from the back end perspective, it's two indexers, two search heads, and it says that there's an enterprise security search head that's actually on the roadmap. So there's no enterprise security search head right now. Right. There will be, in our next version of the architecture. But I bring this up simply because David, the other Aaron's folks, or myself can certainly talk to what it's like to kind of evolve a somewhat purpose-built Splunk architecture into a more generic platform for multiple types of machine data. And I think that's probably a problem that just about, half the room, based upon the responses I saw earlier, it's a problem that probably about half of y'all will have. So, feel free to talk to us about that. I think data size is always interesting to folks. So we initially thought it would be, we kind of took those all those points on the map, ran some math on it. We thought we might be at about 150 gigs a day. Turns out we're running somewhere between 150 to shows like 190 here a day. And they plan on kind of roughly doubling, I would say, over the next year or so.
Yes.
Right.
So we did phase 1, now we move it to phase 2. We're going to get additional data source, grid enrichment, increase automation. We're going to expand to applications, our application testing tools. We're going to implement ES and the Hunter project. So ES is great. We saw it, we were like, great, but this is aligned with our Hunter project. Our Hunter project is a different way of thinking. We're purposely, basically, going slow before we start running and collecting targeted business source so we understand where our data is. Instead of dropping it in the enterprise, start feeding in everything, and then we're worrying about, now we have all this data, how do we parse it out? What do we really need? We're doing a slow run and partnership. Our Hunter program is basically, once we get all this data feed in to ES, we're going to go on a different tack, and we're going to use Splunk in a different way. And most of the industry, you know, when they do assessments or you hear anything, it's like, there's a possibility, or most companies may be breached, or you probably have been breached. So the Hunter project, we're going to take the mindset of, we've already been breached, now what? Let's use our tool and act like if we've been breached. Let's find out what's truly going on in our environment. So we're slowly building out this process. We have to understand the data source, working with our different partners, and understand, so we're going to understand how the application works. We're going to understand deeper how the database works, how it's talking, and we're going to build this program out. The reason why is we're thinking if we are compromised, if we start looking and treating our environment like we are compromised, we'll find more things than us just going, okay, we have this perimeter, this layer of defense in place, and we're okay. We're going to go from a different perspective, and the only way we see we can get all this data or start answering those questions out there is if we use the ES console and we start massaging our data.
Yeah, and I'll actually just back up one slide for a second, because we talk about data sources here, and you just mentioned them.
Yeah.
You know, you don't have to write this down, but the data sources that are in italics are kind of the data sources that are either being implemented right now or are on the roadmap. And I mention that because I think when I hear the folks at Aaron's talk, probably the most important data source that I think of is actually an enrichment source, not a source of machine data in and of itself, right? And that is basically threat intel, right? Marry that up with vulnerability type of information, marry that up with the actual machine data coming out of their systems, and I think then we have sort of the foundation for the Hunter project,
Correct.
You know, to take hold, right? Basically look at, you know, where are we vulnerable, what do our risks look like, you know, what is the industry saying we need to watch out for, what are the problems of today, and how is that reflected in our reality? So I think that's a whole new world for us at Aaron's, and if you think about that analogy of the ocean, right, where you're sitting in that raft and you're floating on all that data, you know, expand that times 10 when you think about all the data sources that we'll be adding in here, where you want to be able to look at things like application logs, you know, which aren't traditionally thought of in the security domain. I know that's been changing for a lot of folks, but you know, that's where a lot of these items are coming from is, you know, hey, if we want to go find out if we're truly, you know, at risk for certain vulnerabilities, you know, we need access to all that data. Right, and so that's where some of these data sources are coming from.
Yeah, and even from the business side, our application logs hits on websites. Our marketing people are interested in that. They see we have the data. They want analytics on that. So it spawns differently. Then I can charge it back to their cost center and buy more equipment. So that's always a good thing. So let's go through best practice and lesson learned. Okay. Everybody has Splunk, about to get Splunk, thinking about Splunk. We took the walk, then run approach. That may not be for you, but just don't stay there and be stagnant and go, well, I gotta wait till the moon is in perfect alignments, the stars are shooting right for me to make a move and collect my data. Because by the time you wait for that perfect alignment, there's an alignment out the door, and you're like, well, that was my plan. The next guy come in and go, yeah, we should use Splunk, I can do this and that. But I had that idea. You waited too long. So just take your time, walk and run, work with your CA, get a holistic view of your environment. Don't try to eat the burger, that big giant burger in Vegas. Don't try to just gobble it up. Take pieces, okay? And you'll understand where you're going, Network. We've talked to different people, how they're using Splunk. We do the call, hey, how's your customer doing this? We listen to everybody, and get our own ideas. But what we like to do is reach out to our SC, our sales contact to basically say, okay, you're making more rounds than we are, so help us grow this business. So, and we get feedback from them, and we grow.
Yes, I guess I have two things to add. I mean, on the notion of networking, if there's one thing that I want y'all to learn today, is learn to ask the following question of your sales rep. And that question is, can you please put me in touch with somebody who's already done fill in the blank? Okay? And I say that I want you to take that down, not to say, I need a reference for this, I need proof, but rather what you want to do is be able to talk to somebody who has already done what you're about to do, so they can talk to you about their thought process and the things that they did well and the things that they did not do well, right? With our customer base, we talked about it earlier, if you're around this room and they're very passionate, they're very happy to share their experiences, both good and bad. And I think one of the most valuable things that we can do as an account team is share our knowledge and our experiences and lessons learned. But beyond that is to try to get you in touch with folks just like yourselves who are in your shoes, who have already been down the path. So I would definitely encourage you, as you're thinking about your plans for Splunk, to reach out to your account teams and not ask the simple questions of, hey, how does this work, or how much does it cost? But what are the implications of doing this? And who can you put me in touch with who's done this before? Okay, so I would definitely give you guys that as homework. The second item that I would share with you is this sort of scales of justice that appears on the right-hand side. I think Aaron's is a great picture of this, in a good way and a bad way. Which was, when we walked in the door and the problem of the day was, collecting all that data, the issue was we need to solve this problem right now, right? Not like 6 months from now, not like, hey, some point 3 years from now we'll have solved this problem. It was, we need that visibility right now. And I would come in as an SE and I would say, hey, here's your perfect world Splunk architecture. And it would have probably not 3 nodes in it. It would have 12, failover, redundancy, high availability, all of these sort of other things built into it. And the team at Aaron's was, I think, frankly, quite great at saying, let's be a little bit more practical, Jeff. We need to solve this problem right now. If I got to go get all that stuff in order to get Splunk in here and get data into it, it's never going to happen. And so I think as you go through and kind of listen to us talk, and we'll talk about best practices and things like that, remember that you live in the trenches. I mean, this is not something new to you, but even with Splunk, it's a phenomenally adaptive solution. Right? One of our best traits is the fast time to value. And the fact that the same platform can scale from your laptop to your data center. So as you kind of think about those things, you can use that as sort of an opportunity to sort of solve the problems of today and know that you can re-architect in the future without too much pain, right? And so always kind of be balancing, what's the problem of today versus, what's the right way to solve this problem in the future, and kind of be making those trade-offs. And again, I think that's an opportunity where you can, get in touch with us or other customers or professional services to understand, hey, what are the critical elements in this decision-making process, and what are kind of like the nice-to-have factors that may or may not break us that we can, move on from later on. I think that's it for us, right?
Yeah.
That's the last slide.
At least the trapdoor didn't open.
So how's the Twitter going so far? I was hearing some good ones. So the Twitter I took away so far, you had some really good nuggets.
I'm going to check. There's a couple of people I work with. I'm waiting to see
you're going to check to see
the
if
Twitter comment.
Oh, okay. Well, we didn't want to really razz you because you ever been in those conferences where they have the Twitter feed behind the speaker?
Yeah.
That is really stressful. So the one I got was, about your son. So you can use Splunk to be a parent with the gaming. That was cool. Our professional service is teams back there. What about the cough test? Do we have a cough test offering? I don't know about that. That would probably be a good tweet. I bet that would get a lot. The moon one, that was good. The stars of the moon. That was a good one. So I really want to thank you. And before we give applause, I mean, we want to ask some questions because you rocked it, you're honest, and you had some good Twitter things as well. So what questions do we have? We have time for 2 questions, and then they will be here today for the rest of the day. And that's Scotty. That's the Scotty that he keeps talking about, by the way.
Female.
Female.
Scotty is a female.
Yes.
Any questions?
Yes, sir.
How big a staff do you need to have to be able to administer the Splunk?
I administer Splunk at my house. But the concept is think about this, is not the amount of staff to administer Splunk. Don't think in that way. Think of the skill set, because to do a simple search, it's a click. There's 4 of us on the team, right, that's really into Splunk all day long. So it's the 2 incident management, myself, my manager, and we pull out a lot of data, but we understand how to search for that data. And if we need to enrich it and produce more charts and things like that, because that's a great question. A lot of people focus on the skill set, how much manpower I need to put towards this. With Splunk, you have to change that dynamic and say, the skill set I need, so I can have a couple of people, I can have one person who's skilled and he does what's trained the trainer. So to pull this report, a junior person can do it. So think of it in that way, because the indexing is very easy and very simple to understand. Yes, sir.
If this is proprietary, you don't have to let me know. What threat intel engine integrates with Splunk and your security solutions?
So,
Just repeat. So the question is, real quick, the question is, what threat intel integrates with Splunk, and what threat intel are you planning on using with Splunk, more or less? Is that right?
So we're evaluating different companies, but basically out the box, if you have ES, you have the threat feeds. There's a lot of threat feeds out there that natively integrates into Splunk, and I don't want to.
I mean, I've kind of been using Alien Vault and Threat Connect. They both have their pros and cons.
Right.
And I was just curious if.
Well, we looked at. I'll show you. We looked at Threat Connect. We looked at Threat Connect. We evaluated Threat Connect. We looked at a competitor of Threat Connect because of the real-time feed they had and the smoothness of integration. So that's what we're looking at right now. But we've looked at different feeds that's coming into Splunk natively, because again, at the end of the day, it's going to boil down to budget to get those feeds. So we look at what's natively coming in, how we can leverage that, and we're also looking at an investment in something that's going to provide long-term value for us and we can partner with as we grow this process.
See, my benefit is I don't have to look at budget. I just get to play with them.
Yeah, our CIO is real funny. He's very technical. You come and he said, I need this. He's like, oh yeah, great, wonderful. And you're in a meeting demoing it, and then he sits there and asks a question. Well, why should I buy this? Don't we buy this already? Isn't this doing this? Why should I buy it? So I have to be right there and show that value on the spot, because after that meeting, that's the final decision. So.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add to that is I think one of the biggest value propositions that they'll have out of ES is the threat intelligence framework.
Yeah.
Right? And the fact that you can, more or less, just about any data source that you would consider to be threat intel, if it's available via files, via web service calls, sticks, taxi, import, etc., can be brought into ES, and it'll just work and become a piece of enrichment. So just about any piece of threat intel can be brought into ES. And I think that's part of the framework, and that's one of the most valuable things that they'll have out of it.
So one more question, and we'll be around at lunch. They'll all be around. Yeah, one.
Tom, right behind you.
And sorry for the people on that side of the room. You get to ask questions of Stephen on the next side, okay? We'll make sure it's fair. Scotty wasn't running fast enough.
All right. For your data sources, are you doing like a safe data conversion as you ingest the data into Splunk, or are you ingesting it raw, just the raw events?
Raw events.
Okay.
Yeah, raw real-time.
Raw
events.
real-time, we have our forwarders index. We have our forwarders on some systems, Splunk forwarders on some systems to pass the data over.
Okay, are you, for the threat intelligence feeds, and your vulnerability data, because it comes in, obviously it comes in different formats, so you're not doing any conversions on that for alerting? Or
No, I've got an API connection, an account created for my vulnerability tool in Splunk that pulls the data real time.
Okay.
Same thing with the one thing with us is automation, and for any threat intel tool, we have to have an API feed. We're not converting. We want the raw data. We want the raw information as quickly as we can get it.
Okay. I'm asking because we went through the same kind of phase, but we realized down the line we are actually running the ES version.
Yeah.
But, it's coming. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
Great, well, thank you for your time. So there's over 200 people here that it's your first time here. This is his first time at Splunk Live, and he's on this stage in front of you all. So you get an extra round of applause for that.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. Thank you, Jeff. So they'll be around at lunch, and then we also have Splunk Answers. So the next gentleman I would like to invite is Stephen Hatch, and he is a veteran speaker because he just spoke at Splunk Live Charlotte, and his brother was even in the audience, came to visit, which was really cool. And he has a lot of colleagues here today, right? Fan club, you get the fan club. And he was in the Air Force, so I met some women from the Air Force Base in Macon, so that's pretty cool. You got your other supporters here as well.
Yes, ma'am.
So at Cox Automotive, another icon company here in Atlanta, I've had just a great experience working with Stephen and his team, and he also his CIO is not really funny, but he's cool because he likes Batman, but John Trainor's just the funniest. But Ed's very easygoing guy, and when he found out I joined Splunk, he's like, oh yeah, there's this guy in our office, and he talks about it all the time. He has this cape. I don't know what it's all about, but remember, this guy really has like Batman in his house. He has a big Batman thing in his office. So he wanted to know what Splunk was because he likes capes. And the passion from the team, so they were kind of hidden. That's the other thing that we're gonna please beg you. So please don't hoard Splunk. Please, like David did, tell people about it, raise your hand. And so the team raised their hand, and now it has CIO level and president level visibility, and now we have Stephen here to tell you more about it. So we really appreciate it, Stephen.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And on.
Thank you. Good morning, Atlanta. Good morning, Atlanta. There we go. All right. I did the same thing in Charlotte, so don't feel left out. So, first of all, my name is Stephen Hatch, and been in Atlanta since 2003. Earthlink, Incom, and then Cox Automotive. And within 30 minutes, I've already met my ex-coworkers from different places, still good friends of mine, on Twitter, on Slack, on whatever IRC channels you can think of. So I still keep in communication with everybody. Atlanta is a hub. Believe it or not, Atlanta is not Georgia, but it is an IT hub of the Southeast. Would you all agree? Right? So it's real easy to run into people all the time, and it's real easy to make a bad name for yourself if you decide to burn a bridge somewhere. So, as a manager, once an individual contributor, make sure when you leave a place, you shake hands, because you never know who you can talk to next. All right, just to put that out there. So, what I would like to do real quick is a quick exercise just to kind of let you guys stretch out one more time. So if I could have everyone stand up real quick, please. I promise it won't take long. No. This is not military style. All right. Real quick. So if this is the very first time you heard about Splunk, congratulations, and you can sit down.
That actually worked, all right. If this is 2016 is your first year ever using Splunk, and you really see the value in it, congratulations, you can sit down. Oh, this is working. All right, so let's go evens now. 2014. Wow. 2012. Remember, using it, not heard about it. Okay, all right, look at that. All right. 2010. Oh. All right, here we go. 2009. 8. 7. Sorry, Jason. There he is. Let's make sure we get him something, right? Very good. All right. I thought about 2002 or 3, right? After that, we probably would have been talking about the founders. Anyway. So today I'm talking about climbing the mountain of scalability. Again, I'm a manager at Cox Automotive over the, what we call Enterprise Logging Services team, but most folks around Cox Automotive just say the Splunk team. All right, no problem. So let's first learn a little bit about Cox Automotive. It is a leading provider of products and services that span the automotive ecosystem worldwide. More than 20 brands that together provide end-to-end solutions for customers large and small, and it is a subsidiary of Cox Enterprises. We also have some folks here from Cox Communications in the house. And anyone from Cox here today? Show of hands. Fantastic. 24,000 employees. They're not all here today. 40,000 customers, $45 billion in sales, 121 auction locations, 32 million unique visitors, and probably 2 out of 3 people that visit or look for a car online probably uses Cox Automotive. Auto Trader, Kelley Blue Book, Manheim, what have you. All right, here we go. Oh, one more start. And of course, our vision is to transform the way the world buys, sells, and owns cars. All right. The perfect day. So my man has a Splunk apron on. He's happy. The grill, in my mind, represents indexing. It's working, source types, everybody's using it. I got a robust license, I'm using Splunk. Everyone's enjoying it, all smiley faces, right? Even the CTO, let's call it a female CTO, right? She's happy. Everything I want is there. I have value, no problem, single. Anyone in that perfect scenario right now? There's not one person in this room has a perfect Splunk environment. All right, you're all telling the truth, very good. Because, in my case, the big cloud of M&A happened upon me. So just like David, I was also volunteered. I was once a Linux manager, and due to a merger and acquisition and reorg, I was invited to a meeting. That meeting consisted of a PowerPoint slide. Click, 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 new direction, click, 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 Splunk, I remember that. Click, 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 conclusion, click, new reorg, and Stephen Hatch is gonna run it. Oh, really? Just like that. So yes, it can happen to all of us, right? So what does this represent? Well, M&As, mergers and acquisitions. Are you one of the people that were acquired? Or are you one of the unfortunate or fortunate people that will be the acquirees, right? So now there's a lot to think about. In my case, Cox Automotive, and I just showed you on the previous slide, there are 20 plus brands. Kelley Blue Book, Auto Trader, Manheim, HomeNet, vAuto, Vin Solutions, on and on and on and on. Lots of work, lots of walls to knock down, and I'll explain. But again, it's not a perfect world anymore. Well, apron's gone, so what's the first topic? Partnerships. So let's talk about partnerships. Platforms. What consists of a platform? How many folks in the house are Linux users or administrators? How many Windows folks do we have in here? Storage, database, middleware, Akamai, virtualization. It's on and on and on. Guess what? You have to now partner with all these different folks, not just in your building, not just in your community or your campus in Atlanta, Georgia. You may have to talk to people across the United States, different time zones, West Coast, East Coast, South, what have you. So now, remember, this is a merger and an acquisition. Is everyone just putting up confetti when you walk in the room? Hey, look, it's the Splunk guys. They're here. They're going to help us, right? It doesn't happen that way. So what is your approach? Are you just going to walk in the door and they're just going to give you the keys? Go ahead, do your thing, man. Splunk guy, go ahead, do it. Appreciate you. It's all about your approach. Are you going to walk in there imposing, demanding? What do you think the reception is going to be? Right? So you got to think about that. So this is now we're talking about application teams. You know, we have all the DevOps community out there. We have all the folks from ThoughtWorks all over the globe that basically are doing code. These are the folks that also would love to use Splunk from all the application logs, Apache, Tomcat, JBoss, what have you, right? They want the insight as well. Partnerships. You have to come in the door the right way. You have one chance to make a good impression or a bad impression. Security folks, you know, all the threats that are out there. David alluded to a lot of those things, right? Let's get in front of it. Let's act like it already happened. I'm stealing some of David's lines. I'm sorry. Of course, he left already. Sorry. So again, let's be proactive. Let's think it like it already happened instead of waiting until it already happened. An engagement team. In my case, basically, I can't represent the onboarding for everything. Because in a minute, next couple slides, you're going to understand that multiple business units means you're now not necessarily inheriting, but you have to ultimately ingest multiple business units, multiple data centers. In our case, we have 40 plus data centers across the United States right now that I have to consider. And every one of those data centers, there's infrastructure. And every one of those infrastructures, there are multiple application teams running on those hosts. The end goal for us is to have all that infrastructure flowing. But again, if you don't have the partnerships, how are you going to get that data in there, right? So you need an engagement team. Hopefully you have an engagement team. Ours, we call a service delivery team. They're the ones that go out there. In the next slide, you'll see as far as putting out a predictable, consistent matrix, if you will, to onboard your users and their data, right? Because we're talking about either infrastructure syslogs or we're talking about application logs. How much are they bringing to the table? Isn't it a big difference when someone says, I got a little bit of data, and it turns into a terabyte? Oh, just a little bit, right? So you got to get those questions up front. And then, of course, when you're out there trying to get these multiple teams, businesses, business units, you need a champion. You know, I'm a manager, I'm a leader, but there's also senior managers, directors, VPs that can, you know, go to bat for you when there's someone on the other side that still is not very receptive because he or she may have lost their rank, right? They may have now once been this, but now they're this. And right now they're still a little salty, right? So, and you have a timeline, you have an agenda, but you can't move forward because someone over there is saying, I don't care who he is. Stephen Hash, sorry, no, can't work with him. So you might need a champion in your corner. All right. Whew. All right, so we scaled that first little ledge, right? Standards, what are they? Deployments. Now, you have and I apologize, I keep doing that, it gets louder. Deployments, how are you going to get your Splunk out there to the world, to the enterprise, to the ecosystem? Are you going to individually install your universal folders on every server out there? Are you going to individually hook up all the syslog components, all the endpoints, you and your team alone? Or are you going to leverage automation? Chef, Puppet, right? I'll accept a script. Born, Corn, Perl, what have you, right? get some automation in place, get them out there. Because I currently, 4,000 universal forwarders across the ecosystem right now. And when it comes time to upgrade, am I going to individually upgrade every UF manually? Nah, ain't going to happen. Onboarding. Users. Currently right now we are at about 800 users, looking to double that very quickly, right? Onboarding consists of data and the users. So basically we're trying to leverage other technologies to make sure that's more seamless. And when it comes down to that, authorization and authentication, you want something like Active Directory by your side, right? Let it do what it does well as far as managing the roles and the users, and then that way you can control your authentication and authorizations. And with that, we're using actually Okta. So actually at the end of this month, we'll be Okta enabled. So if you're the CTO, or if you're the man who cleans up at night, you have access to Splunk. I don't care, I'm happy with that. Because right now, I don't want my workflow ServiceNow queues inundated with nothing but I want Splunk or I want Plunk or Splu or whatever it is, because I can never spell it right. But I just want everyone in and let's talk about getting value instead of worrying about all the time getting you into the front door, right? So again, about partnerships, I said something about a matrix or some type of onboarding sheet. Business unit prerequisites questionnaire. And that's something that you need to work on if you're gonna have multiple people coming to the door. Those service delivery managers can use this to go out there on your behalf to make sure that they understand the data before they come to you. So in our case, we're making sure that everyone in Cox Automotive, number one, is Okta enabled. Once they're Okta enabled, they can already get to the door, they can already get there. Number two, with this questionnaire, we get a better assessment up front of what type of data, how much of the data that they're trying to bring to the fold. Because as we know, Splunk is not limitless, right? So you have to do a good job of forecasting, and we'll talk about that again. Access model, again, partnerships. Again, can you just walk right through that door to the Windows team? Hey, how you doing? My name is Stephen Hatch. I'm from the Splunk team. Give me your data, right? Or even so, let's ask this question. Can I have access to your servers? Can I get root, please? Please? Can I get sudo, please, to everything? Can I get, oh, I'm sorry, Windows guys, I'm not gonna leave you out. Administrator? Just give it to me, I'm a Splunk man, you can trust me. Right? So what is the access model? A, are you gonna, delegate off to these platform teams to install the universal folder for you? Have the standards in place, they know the exact path and the approach and make sure it starts off or starts up when the server comes up and down? B, are they going to give you access to this platform? Do you really want access to all those servers? Right? You got to come up with that model, because as this thing grows, you know, I only have 4 people on my team. Do I want to have to log into all these different hops and VPNs and this and that just to get to a server? Everyone has a different naming scheme. Good Lord, I don't know how to get to these servers, right? You have a specific path that you want to maintain, but you don't own the platform, so they can tell you where to go. So now you have to have a matrix of exactly where Splunk home is on every different Windows server across 5 different companies. You gonna keep up with all that? And the minute you get a document, what do? Oh, they refresh the whole farm again. Where is it now? Dang. All right, so again, and then of course, GitHub. We are leveraging GitHub from a configuration management standpoint, revision control, so that all of our infrastructure, when it comes down to deployment servers, heavy forwarders, syslog servers, any of our miscellaneous servers, we control via GitHub. And I'll explain another way you can take advantage of GitHub in the next slide when it comes down to your community. All right. All right, my legs are getting tired, but hey, we're getting there. Infrastructure. Data centers. We first started out a data center. We had a instance of Splunk on a 50 gig license. Woohoo, big time, right? 50 gigs, wow. Well, after this, now we are currently using a 1.2 terabyte license. Getting ready to go to 3 terabytes. And the next year 4, the next year 5. That's our forecast so far. Of our 1.2 terabyte license, we're using on average about 950 gigs a day. Last year was 300. I love the reactions. It's kind of fun. So now, what do you have to consider about infrastructure? I just told you about data centers. Every data center, they're all the same, right? Aren't they? CenturyLink, QTS, Exodus, all these different ones. You got to think about that different company before they became, in this case, Cox Automotive. Who are their providers? Level 2, Sprint, what have you, all these different carriers are out there, right? Different parts of the region. What was their game at that time? What was their goal? What were their requirements as far as bandwidth, network? What do they classify those data centers as, right? Are they the primary or the secondaries? Do they have both? Is one as a DR, or are they just single hosted over there on the East Coast? And the folks in Seattle, I'm sorry. It works, but it sure is slow, right? You've just not inherited all that. So again, just to go back on network classification, so you're gonna have to start thinking about it. So we got a primary, we have 2 for Cox Automotive, one in Suwanee, Georgia, one in Lithia Springs. Those are our primaries, as well as Duke Drive. But a data center in the name of Canvern out in Kansas, yeah, it works. But can I call that my robust data center as far as the network classification? What about if we're still trying to get them on board to meet our standards from a network standpoint, and it's not a 10 gig, it's not a 5 gig, it's a 1 gig. That 1 gig also shares with their VoIP traffic, right? You got QoS to think about. So here we go again, partnerships. I'm Splunk, right? So give me precedence over your voice, right? I'm Splunk, man. I need to be first, right? Out of your QoS model. See how that works. So, of course, bandwidth, right? Every data center has a different cap, a different bandwidth subscription, if you want to call it. So you have to consider all these things. Because if your data is flowing and you have some very rich data that's coming out of a specific data center from virtualization or those chatty firewalls, what have you, you got to consider all of that. Are you going to centralize it back to your main hub data center? What are you going to do? You got to think about all that. I almost gave away my slides. Routing, DNS. DNS. Everybody, no one uses the same IP space in this world, right? Data center A, data center B, 192.168. There's only one data center in the world that uses that address, right? 10 dot something. So, if I'm gonna centralize all my syslog data to one data center, am I gonna make them all change their IP addresses? Do you have that kind of power? Dang, what am I gonna do? Do I put them on separate ports that come in? So, Auto Trader's on port 9992 and Auto Trader's on this and then Mannheim's on that? Dang, how do I do all this, right? Gotta think about it. Firewalls. Oh my goodness. Now you went from one door, you go to the next door. Hi, my name is Splunk. Stephen Hatch, I'm here to talk about Splunk. I need you to open up some ports for me. I just got done talking to the routing guys. I just got done talking to the DNS guy. Just look this over. It can be monotonous, but it's necessary. It's on and on and on. HA, syslog. Why is that important? Don't we have devices out there now that are not persistent as far as disks? They don't have any disks. They're like this, right? The center of the data. Did it get there? Don't care. UDP, right? You're Splunk now. You're collecting the data on their behalf. Do you have any kind of HA in front of your syslog servers? Load balancer, what have you, because if it goes down, do they know about it? Oh yeah, they know on the graphs, right? Big old flat line, and then comes back up a week later. Yeah, remember, CTO's looking at this stuff now. He wants Splunk. And he sees big dips and valleys. And oh yeah, that was a quiet day. Right? All right. We're at the top. I think it's a sunny day. We're now indexing. We've considered all these things to talk about: partnerships, standards, infrastructure. So before I let you celebrate, let's talk about a couple things. Empowerment. Your users are your most valuable asset at this point. You need to empower them. Empower your users. How do you empower your users? You educate them. Educate them on best practices. Educate them on, whether you're a database administrator or in Splunk, asterisk by itself is a bad thing, right? Teach them. Get more granular, filtering, source types, event types, tags, all the knowledge types. Educate them. I know you love to talk to them every day, but the more you educate them, the more work you get to do, right? And the more you educate, what happens? You can now delegate, right? Now you're delegating. Now you get to do the fun Splunk stuff, right? Let's talk about expanding our search head cluster. Let's talk about doing all these different robust things behind the scenes, because I don't want to have to do a dashboard every day. Oh, you want a dashboard on what? Okay, hold on, let me do it for you. You push that line out a little bit more. In the beginning, you did everyone's dashboards, right? But over time, you want to pull that line back. Now, if your CTO comes to you, you better do his dashboard, right? But everybody else, let the community, get them empowered. Let them do all these things. Get their templates built out. These data models that then turn into pivot tables so that the non-technical can now leverage the information. Empower your users so by way of education so you can now delegate. Does that all make sense? Because especially for you folks in the DevOps community, we want you to help us, right? GitHub, that is our gateway into the DevOps community. Give up, be transparent, it's okay, let it go. Let them have access to those configurations within GitHub. Let them make the updates, let them check them in, you be the approver, your ecosystem's not gonna fall over, and now it's off and running, and you did not one thing. And guess what? People are being onboarded all over the place, but you get the credit. Think about it. So, what I would like to now say is thank you very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this. And wait, wait a minute, that thing came back again. That cloud, I'm sorry, Marv, you're gonna have to sit down. I'm not done. This was not supposed to happen. You know they can hear you, right? Oh, now. Well, guess what? Did you think that your leadership didn't have their own expectations? Were you that naive? You're thinking about syslog, you're thinking about HA, you're thinking about indexing and source types and onboarding, but they're thinking about one thing: business value. They're out there talking on the golf courses, they're talking in all their those excursions and retreats and all that stuff, and all they're saying is Splunk, 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 Splunk. They want to know, the CTO wants to know, you know what, I'm tired of someone giving me last year's information when I present a deck to somebody and all it says something of 2014. This is 2016. I need data like right now. I need to know that I have X amount of storage shelves across my ecosystem. And I, the CTO, can get the information. I don't have to call all the different individual storage managers and all the different businesses to give me the summation of everything I have. Why can't I just hit the button? Why can't I just see it? Data center restrictions. Well, you know what, they're restrictive because, you know what? This thing's about to blow up in my face. So I need to make sure I've partnered, once again, that word, with those data center folks. I need to make sure I have enough, bandwidth, space in those racks for my compute and my storage. Infrastructure delays. How long does it take for you to get your stuff in, right? More storage. Dell, HP, whoever your providers are, what's the turnaround time to get your gear in place? Forecasting. Did you really plan for your what's going to happen? So maybe you did. You planned it, you got it all out there. Infrastructure sound, is ready, it's fast, it's quick. Solid state storage. You got a couple more spaces just in case in the rack. Your man can do a little hookup for you. Hopefully it works out for you. You believe in the next year or two, I probably want to use another 500 gigs, right? I'm good. So this mountain, I think I've conquered it. I'm good. Oh, dang, that mountain was not as big as I thought it was. It's bigger. Because guess what? All this that you're trying to do right now, let me make it darker. How many days, let's make it say it's December 2016. How many work days do you really get in December? 10, 11? Anyone take vacations or breaks in December? Especially the folks you really need at that time? Leadership, finance, change management. Isn't there a freeze at about that time? How am I going to get this done? And I just put all this infrastructure out there. I forecasted, I budgeted. We stole money from other people, other groups. Storage guy can't get his stuff. Database can't get their stuff. Splunk got their stuff. But even still, it's not enough. On premise, I'm stuck. So I think what I'll do is I'll let this business unit search on Mondays, this one search on Tuesdays, this one on Wednesdays, and they'll search on Thursdays. And your retention, I might have to go from 90 days to like maybe 90 minutes. So if you want to use Splunk, you better get your report, get it, and download it because it's going to be gone. Because I have no more space. And I have no other way to go, or do I? Whew, I got Splunk Cloud. Splunk Cloud saved my, right? So basically, I have all these fantastic features of scalable and flexible infrastructure. On demand, I can request expansion of my index cluster. I can expand my search head cluster. It's 24/7 support, 100% uptime SLA, and it's backed by, of course, Splunk and AWS. I've used it now for almost a year. It is fantastic. It's one thing I don't have to worry about anymore when it comes down to expanding my infrastructure on premise outside of my universal folders and my heavy folders. They do the rest. So with that being said, now, Marva, you can walk on up here. And I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. My name is Stephen Hash.
I'm not letting you off that easy. So, he made you all stand up because he's been using Splunk for less than a year. I didn't even meet you since like the summer. So, it's an amazing story. And the reason why I think it's an amazing story, well, there's some good Twitters, right, about sunny day, perfect day. I'm sure you could be creative there. But this is how someone can use technology to transform a business and transform how people communicate. It is kind of fun being a Splunk guy, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
He gets to walk in anyone's office. He gets to meet all those groups. So just think about that. Take the technology, forget you're not at a Splunk conference. The story he told is absolutely amazing, and you're going to be remembered at Cox Automotive for a long time, and we're so gracious to you.
Thank you.
So does anyone have time for maybe like one or two questions, and then Stephen will be here, and all of his colleagues will be here as well. And this is Rob. This is his partner in crime, Rob. Everyone knows Rob.
Oh, come on. There's one over there.
Getting over.
They might be getting hungry, so that's why.
Excuse me. Quick question. Did you start out on-prem and then go to the cloud?
Yes, sir. So actually, so we had two instances of Splunk, one at AutoTrader, one at Mannheim. And we basically shut down one because there was really only one user of it. And we then promoted, we actually just jumped to the cloud instead of actually using a hybrid solution. But we still keep our on-premise for more of a QA standpoint now, so that anything that we want to do, that we want to build a custom app, we test it there before we obviously test it in production. So we still keep it in play as we speak.
So here's a good example. So a lot of you might have heard of Splunk, 3 to 5 years ago, and it's something that some smart person was using to solve a business problem, that's why this example is so powerful. So we do invest in the Atlanta community. We'll spend some more time on this, but we do invest. We're members of Georgia CIO as well as Technology Council of Georgia, and because of that, we do get the attention of a lot of the CIOs and CTOs now, and they now want to know what this secret thing that one person was using. That's what happened to you.
Yeah. And so I want to actually entertain a question that was asked over here before about how many people are on the Splunk team. And again, it's about your community. Right now I have a team of 4, and there are 2 sides of the spectrum. There's the non-sexy and there's the sexy. Leadership wants you over here all the time, right? They want to hear the sexy stuff. But please, in the beginning, stay on the non-sexy. Get your standards in place, get your foundation sound, right? Make sure that you're ready to take on this 7-lane freeway. People are ready to use it right now. But if you haven't painted the lanes yet, and you open the doors, what's gonna happen? Chaos. Paint the lanes, get it defined, set those channels, and that way when you open the doors, you already have a process and you have a planned approach. Because this thing is beautiful. Splunk sells itself. But if you don't do your homework, if you let outside forces tell you what you're going to do with your infrastructure, you're going to have a bad time. So stay over here on the non-sexy for as long as you can before you turn into the sexy side.
Thanks for telling Marva that Splunk sells itself. I appreciate that. we got one more question.
Mr. Stephen Hatch, how you doing? This is Tony Moore,
yes, sir.
Fellow income colleague. Not there anymore, I'm with Lockheed now. You said you guys, as far as the way that you use Splunk, you said you guys made an approach where I guess you guys were going through a lot of acquisitions and things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
So basically when it came time to put that model together, what were the building blocks for you in order to bring these other companies in and have Splunk be able to manage those data resources and things of that nature?
So David's approach was he had to really sell it. I was very, very, very fortunate. My team is very fortunate where it started from the CTO. The CTO was the one that said, I want Splunk. He was obviously sold on, Marva and Rob. They came in there. But he's the ultimate champion of Cox Automotive when it comes down to Splunk. So now, with that directive and the charter already in place, I'm under pressure to make sure this thing happens, right? So there's 2 different ways, right? And I believe in Charlotte, the best approach I can remember, the analogy is, we're all techie, we're engineers, and we want to say, hey, how do I sell this to leadership, right? Oh, I can go through my syslog servers and 8 times faster than I ever did before. Leadership's like, I don't care. But if you can translate that into, we've reduced our downtime by X amount of hours every month, now, you've gotten his attention. So if you want Splunk, if you really, really want to get more value out of Splunk, make sure you can talk in multiple languages to your peers and also the leadership that hold on to the money. All right.
Thank you so much. You did.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so we're buying him a lot of drinks after. So I want to introduce Hal. So we have 2 more things we're going to do. I'm going to tell you about our community, and then we're going to tell you about the sessions for the day. So he is not a Shriner. Okay, I know, sorry. I'm just using his example. You're going to talk about the Fez? Yeah, well, first thing is, and you can't have a Fez to answer this question, and I will give you swag. You get swag, whatever you want. So when my first Splunk Live was in Nashville, which I was super excited. I'd never been to Nashville, and our speaker showed up with a cape. So goodness, his colleague has a cape, but I've never seen him wear it. So this was at Splunk Live, and the gentleman actually had the cape. And he talked about how he was splunking his baby who was sick, and he was giving him medicine, and it was just fascinating. So I didn't understand the cape, and I learned to appreciate it. And then I went to Splunk Live and saw these gentlemen with these fezzes, and were wondering if we had some nonprofit, because we have this thing called Splunk for Good, and I was still very confused. So I now know what it is, and I'm just honored and impressed, because we can tell you how great, Priya does a great job at our marketing department, but it's really the community and self-recommending and policing yourselves is what really matters, in this, especially in this world. So does anyone know that doesn't have a Fez what this represents? What? And they're actually part of a group now. They were all inducted at the at Splunk Live, and I need to know what that's called. Splunk Trust. All right, you win. So Hal's going to tell you about what the Splunk Trust is, and then also he's here in Atlanta, and he's going to tell you how he's helping the community.
Yes, and I have a very small number of slides. Is there a clicker that I can actually click? Because I see my slides, which is awesome, but I don't have a clicker.
It's right there.
Where, this?
Yeah, I think.
This looks like something you'd use to set off a bomb.
Actually does.
How do I use it? Do I hit the green button?
Yeah.
It advances the slide?
Yeah.
Okay, this is modern technology. Hi guys, I'm Hal Rodenberg. I've worn a few titles at Splunk. Before April, it was a developer evangelist. Before that, solution architect. Now I'm one of our ITOA practitioners, specializing in IT service intelligence and DevOps use cases in particular. So Stephen, I will be talking with you later, I'm sure. So I want to talk about technical community, but I'll start off with Splunk Trust to mention what this is about and what the Fez symbolizes. So if you ever see anybody wearing a Fez like this, and you ask them a Splunk question, they have to answer. Like they have to answer, they are compelled to answer. This is a symbol worn by the members of the Splunk Trust Community MVP program. This is run by Rachel Perkins out of headquarters, and it's used to award people who have shown such dedication to helping to build out the technical community that is that we're made of. The people who get excited and passionate about working with Splunk. So we really appreciate folks like that contributing on the answers website, helping answer other people's questions on chat, user groups, things like that. So this is a symbol. But if you see anybody asking any Splunk question, like George Starcher, who's out in the crowd wearing a Fez, he has to answer. He can't not do it. It's like it's in his blood. So that's what that means. So I want to talk just briefly about technical community. I've got a couple of items of interest, hopefully, to a lot of you. And this is a passion of mine, is helping to build technical communities. That's why I help to run the user group here in Atlanta, the Splunk ATL user group. We meet monthly, mostly, maybe every other month. We're going to have a meeting in May. And this is, we've got a new user group site that I want to refer people to. There's an old one on Meetup that many people probably have are already members of. Raise your hand if you've been to a Splunk user group meeting. That's awesome. That's awesome. It's about 30, 40 people. So we have, we'll get 50 people at a user group meeting, no problem. And this is actually, believe it or not, the Atlanta user group is the one with the biggest membership, even bigger than the one in San Francisco that I was at 2 days ago. We held the San Francisco Bay Area user group. They got 50 people. We met in the South Bay Area, and it was a great meeting. But I think we can do better here in Atlanta. So I want us to get 60 or 70 or more people. So go to the usergroups.splunk.com website, RSVP to the next meeting when that's announced, or join it. You'll be notified. You'll see, I think there's only like 20 or 30 members in the roster there. That's because we're transitioning from the old site where we have 660 members there. So there's a lot of people who have shown interest in sharing technical information and otherwise with your peers. So like I said, this is a passion of mine. I hope to see many of you at a future user group meeting. We meet at Emory. Emory has I don't even know what we call that part of Atlanta, but at Emory inside the perimeter, and also at Coca-Cola's Marietta facility. So we kind of bounce back and forth to attract people from different parts of town. And so that's, hopefully I will see you guys at a user group meeting. Second, I wanted to mention chat. So who here uses chat tools of various kinds to solve problems and interact with peers on a routine basis? This could be Slack, this could be HipChat, this could be IRC. So I see a lot of hands. If you're not a part of the Splunk user group's Slack team, then you're missing out. So if you want, so it's like Answers. All the people that hang out in Answers and are excited about answering people's questions there, they also hang out here. There's a lot of different rooms. There's one for Atlanta. So if you want to huddle with somebody locally, there are rooms themed to a few different types of questions and problems that you may encounter. And it's a lot of fun. And you can get quick poll of people, you can get instant answers, and I spend a lot of time in. There's also some regular events that's actually pretty cool. There are, we call, there's Virtual Conf, which is something that the Splunk Trust trustees will actually present a topic, and we run a live chat room at the same time that kind of follows that. We also do Splunk office hours regularly, where basically a member of product management or engineering, we'll get a few people from a team, and they will sit in a chat room and answer questions for an hour for anybody that comes. So that's a great opportunity to get hands-on, deep level, engineering level questions, that's really hard to, we're giving you access to those kinds of people. So this is the way to do it. We're working on an easier sign up process right now. Go to splunk402.com/chat. And last but not least, I wanted to pimp a project of mine. It's called Splunk Talk. Has anybody ever heard of Splunk Talk? Excellent. So I love to podcast. That's one of my things also. And Splunk Talk is a project that I've been doing with Michael Wild for a few years now, and it was on again, off again. But we have 3 new episodes, and they're in YouTube right now. So if you go to YouTube and search for Splunk Talk, you'll see a channel. We're working on getting the audio feed all set up for like every podcast in the world in iTunes and all that stuff. But there's 3 new episodes right now, and we're recording these regularly, and we also live stream those in the Splunk Talk room in Slack. So lots of ways to interact with myself, Michael Wild, Clint Sharp in PM. He's also on that project, and we love to just talk about Splunk, and hope to interact with all of you sometime soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Al. Nice job.
I think it's lunchtime, right?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, you got it?
Yep, I got it.
You want me to say? You're not going to let me say? You got other things you want to
We
say,
got
don't
some
you?
other, they give me a lot of lists of
Okay,
things to
all right.
remember, so thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So how's super helpful? We actually have about 40 employees here in Atlanta, by the way. We don't have an office because we have all these really cool office spaces. We're actually building a brand new building in San Francisco. We'd love to invite you to come visit it. So a couple things of housekeeping. So lunch will be directly, it's kind of catty corner if you walk diagonal out there. And if you want to talk to any specific client, just look for a Splunk person and we will make sure we make those connections for you. And then on the breakout sessions, I would encourage you to really read the descriptions. 2 of them are business value oriented, where you actually can walk away with a business case, similar to what Stephen has used. One of them is on machine learning, which, as you know, is a super hot topic right now. Obviously, we have security, which is also very hot. And then what Hal was mentioning, so he's part of the ITOA team, so this is the glass tables. That's also something that Stephen's been using. So we have all those, we have hands-on, and then we do have 2 business-oriented sessions. So if you're not real techie, you're like, oh, they're asking too many questions about forwarders and everything, maybe I'm not going to stay this afternoon, you might want to look at the business one. The other plug and passion that I have and my team has is our next generation of Splunkers. So I want to throw the challenge out to you, and I really want to applaud Chad. I don't know where he is. Chad is from Porsche. He's not even a client, but yet here in North America. But I met Chad as part of the Georgia State mentoring program that I'm a mentor in. And we do give Splunk to universities for free. So if you actually Google Splunk in education, you'll see all the universities that are teaching Splunk in their curriculum. In Australia, over 50% of the universities teach Splunk in their curriculum. And here in the United States, the Ohio State, Baylor, Kennesaw State is a customer. Georgia Tech just started teaching it. UAB is really big in Birmingham. They're a really big advocate of ours. So it's coming. So I just want to let you know, if you're on the board, if you do any mentoring, we do provide a free curriculum for universities. We also are really helping our customers with interns. So I challenged Chad. I said, hey, if you have an intern, bring him to Splunk Live. So he brought his intern from Germany, so welcome, to Atlanta. Atlanta to come to this event. So if you do mentor anyone, or if you have college-age kids like me, please offer them Splunk. And as a business people, we will also support your intern. We also, this summer, Jeff Blake, he's running around somewhere, he trains all of our Splunk interns. He has offered this summer to give us some spots for our customers' interns so they can come to Plano for 1 week and we will train them on Splunk, and then they can come back and be productive in your organization. So we are really committed to having more Splunkers and bringing the value to you faster. So again, I really want to thank you for your time. Please tweet. Please also give us feedback. Last time we had this at the Cobb Galleria, and this time we're trying it downtown, so we would like to get a feel. Atlanta is a very spread out, traffic-y place, so we would like to get your feedback on what is a good event location for you. And then Orlando is not that far away. You could drive. We'd love you to come to the .conf. It is a really cool conference. It's all customers. We have a lot of fun. It's just a lot of learning, and it's a fun time. You can bring your family, bring your girlfriend, bring your spouse, whatever you want to do. Work with your sales team. We are very creative. So if you buy a couple passes and you need a couple passes, that's fine. If you speak, and we just did a call for speakers Monday of this week. You also get to go for free. And as you saw, I mean, David and Stephen, this is their first time here and they're speaking. So you can do it. We'll help you with the slides. That's what Jeff and the rest of our marketing team are here for. We will help you. So with that, really a pleasure meeting you. Again, thank you so much for your time and your support of Splunk and our community. And let's go to lunch, and I'll see you a little bit later. Cheers.